love me. XOXO.
Mike's Mike. Hello everybody, welcome to Mike's Mike. My name is Scandalously Mike and welcome to season 3 of my Gossip Girl recap. First of all, thank you so much for waiting. I know it's been a fair few months since season 2. I will say, I think it's worth the wait because this video, in my opinion, is better than season 1 and season 2. Let me explain why and also give some other updates. First update, as you can see, is I'm back to using this microphone because the Britney mic that I used in season 1 and 2 literally indented my skull. I can still feel it and it hurts so bad. That also means that the audio in this video will be excellent. It'll be so beautiful. Second update, I didn't do a playlist for season 3 because Spotify took down my season 1, season 2 playlist and they keep doing that to all the playlists that I make to go with these videos. So what's the point? I would say the big update here is that I've put a lot more effort into the Gossip magazine covers that go with each episode. For season 1 and 2, I kind of did it as like a, ooh, that little cutesy thing, but now it's serious business, okay? In my opinion, these are excellent. Like these, hello? Yeah. And I am nothing if not referential. So each one of these covers corresponds to a real Gossip magazine or tabloid cover from the 2000s. It's mostly just the styling and the headings. There's not much linking the actual content. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Stunning and excellent. Never done before. I think this might be my favorite one. It's from episode 11. What appears on the covers is very closely linked to the plot of that episode. And it's one of my goals that you could just pick this up and be like, oh, I remember that episode. So I hope you enjoy those. Special shout out to Hannah for helping me make some of the templates for these covers. And this deeper dive into the plot of each episode is a reflection of the season 3 plot. I think it's excellent. So much happens. There's so many complex interactions between characters. I hope you can see how much effort I put into these videos. I think you can kind of tell when you watch it. But if you enjoy it and want to help me out, hit that like button, leave me a comment, hit that subscribe button, and turn that ad blocker off and refresh the page. Oh, stunning. Thank you. And with that, let's get started. Welcome back, Upper East Siders. After a long hot summer away, I see it didn't take much time for you to dirty up the clean slates I gave you. My inbox is overflowing, so let's get to the good stuff, shall we? Episode 1 serves as a continuation of some of the plot points from the end of season 2, and also the end of others. Blair and Chuck are now capital D dating, but as is to be expected, it's not really a straightforward let's go on dates hee situation. They have their games, one of which is the pretend cheating eleganza extravaganza, where they'll pick women for Chuck to flirt with and nearly kiss, but then Blair will turn up and blast them for trying to get with her man. Like, okay, you could just go out for a nice dinner, but I guess if you're super mega rich, the experience of going out for a nice dinner is probably not the same as it would be for you and I. You and I. Dan, Jenny, and Eric have been in the Hamptons all summer. Eric and Jenny made a deal with Serena to hide her Euro summer exploits from Rufus and Dan, with Jenny's cover-up duties, including her going into Dan's laptop to disable his Serena Google alert. Now, did you happen to see anything else while you were perusing Dan's laptop, little Jay? Perhaps a bit of creative writing? Anyways, Anne-E-Ways, A-N-N-E, first name, middle name E, Ways, W-E-I-S-Z, Annie-Ways. The Humphreys are about to move into Casa Vanderwoodson Bass, but not Dan, because he's staying at the Poverty Loft because it's close to Poverty University, also known as NYU. Yay, plot continuation. Let's celebrate that. Let's celebrate it. Dan said he was going to NYU at the end of last season, and now he's going to NYU. Some Gossip Girl plotlines would be jealous of that continuation. So yes, Rufus and Jenny are moving into the Vanderwoodson Bass penthouse, and this is because Rufus and Lily are now engaged, which happened at the end of season 2. Serena's back. Where has she been, Serena? Europe, babe. She's been in Europe. Along with every second person I follow on Instagram, don't piss me off. Seems like everyone's having a Europe summer, or a Europe autumn, or a Europe spring. Serena's pulled up in New York with a fresh tan and a gaggle of paparazzi. Remember, in the season 2 finale, Serena ran into Carter Bazin, aka Sebastian Stan, who was like, hey, I know where your dad is. Nate Archibald has been hanging out with this girl, who ends up being Bree Buckley. And it turns out the Buckleys are the political rivals of the Vanderbilts. Rot-roll raggy. Vanessa's been trying to catch up with Dan so she can introduce him to her new friend, Scott. But Dan catches wind of Serena's summertime swagness exploits across the pond, and he's heard that she's returned. So Dan's like, hang on, Vanessa, please wait. I need to talk to my potential stepsister confirmed situationship. Now, this Scott, capitals Scott, remember he is the secret undead son of Rufus and Lily, but now he's undercover at NYU so he can get close to the Vander Humphreys. Lily is not in town. She's with Cece, who's apparently sick. I seem to recall season 1 cotillion era fake sickness that ended up being real sickness. So it sounds like Cece is getting treatment. Dan catches up with Serena and he's like, so? What now? Like, what's up? What's been happening? And Serena's like, ugh, I can't talk. I can't talk right now. You know why she can't talk? Because she's Serena Van der Woodsen and she has to go. Obviously. I gotta go. Me when I'm Serena Van der Woodsen and I gotta go. She goes shopping with Blair and it's paparazzi abound. Remember, Serena is an information technology girl. An it girl, if you will. And her summer swagness exploits across the pond in Europe only made her even more famous. Whatever she did in Europe, she made waves on the blogs and the tabloids. One thing about Sister Serena, she's gonna eat up a paparazzi appearance. I mean, just look at this.
I still have no idea why they're following me.
She's so no photos, Cole. No photos. I can't. No photos. Now, speaking of the rare phenomenon known as Gossip Girl plot continuity, remember how Nate got that summer internship and he was like, fuck it. I'm young. Fuck it, I'm young. I'm going to go backpacking with Vanessa instead. Well, because of that, the Vanderbilt fam hasn't really been talking to him. He kind of got exiled because he wanted to backpack with Vanessa Abrams through Europe. Maybe I would exile him too. And that's awkward because the annual Vanderbilt polo match is tomorrow. Chuck's like, hee hee hee. Why don't you really piss them off and invite political enemy Bree Buckley for a touch of Polo sans Marco? Also, side note, it's worth mentioning that the Blair-Chuck cheating game Eleganza Extravaganza is not at all supported by Nate and Serena. They're both just kind of like, oh, that's not a good idea. Someone's going to end up being hurt and it's probably going to be Blair. Dan finally meets up with Vanessa at a cafe because, as you know, Vanessa signed a contract with Big Coffee where every single one of her scenes has to be her drinking coffee, holding a coffee, working at a coffee shop, or having a general feral caffeinated aura. So Vanessa and Dan are at this cafe and they're talking about their summers. And Vanessa's like, remember that guy Scott? Remember him? We briefly met him at the end of season 2. She says that explicitly. Well, we're kind of seeing each other now. Yeah. And she wants to organize a catch-up for all of them. She also says that she and Nate briefly hooked up during their friends-only backpacker vacation, which to me seems like the writers ditched Vanessa and Nate to go with Vanessa and Scott, which pisses me off for reasons to be revealed, but whatever. When they get up to pay for their coffees, Vanessa sees that Dan has this fancy designer wallet with all this cash in it. She's like, okay. And then she's like, let's get the train together. And Dan's like, can't, babe, gotta catch the bus. But then Vanessa sees Lonely Boy, poor boy, $1 to his name boy, Dan Humphrey, secretly getting in a limo, and she's not having a bar of it. She's like, why's my oomph from Struggle Town cosplaying as rich? Stick to the stuff you know, stick to the status quo. Serena runs into Carter Bazin. He's trying to get Serena to talk about what happened, but she's avoiding the conversation and she obviously has to Vincent Van. At this point, this storyline's kind of got me like, please, sir, may I have some context? Rufus and Dan finally see all the pictures of Serena partying in Europe in the tabloids, and there's also a mystery guy in all of the pics, so Dan's like, and who is that? It's International Man of Mystery Carter Bazin. But Serena tells Dan that what started as a little intercontinental jaunt has turned into something sinister because Carter is stalking her, so can Dan please keep Carter away from her? Dan's obviously like, yes ma'am, I can help with that. So he calls Blair and the two of them start concocting a Carter repellent plan. Now, this Vanderbilt polo game, it's great because we're watching a season premiere, thus therefore needs some peak Gossip Girl, which in my opinion comes in the form of two things: a dinner party or a ridiculous high society event. And we have been blessed because polo is very high society event coded. Who the hell under the net worth of $5 million plays polo? I've never seen polo in my life. When Big Brother said polo, I mean, I've never seen polo in my life. I thought it was made up for Oliver Twist film. Now, the term high society event, who doesn't match that vibe? Vanessa, right. Well, she's talking to her situationship Scott about feeling iffy about Dan's rich era, and Scott's like, nah, 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 nah. you got to go to the polo event and talk to him and bring me too. He just wants to talk to Rufus because he's his secret dead undead Vander Humphrey love child, and this would be a great opportunity to have a chat. So basically everyone's pulling up to the polo. We've got Nate pulling up with political enemy Bree Buckley to start some drama. Serena's been asked to throw the first ball or some shit. In my head it's like Mariah throwing the baseball at that baseball game. It's It Girl vibes, remember? Chuck and Blair are also there, and they've actually decided to stop their silly games, but because they've stopped, they're so bored now. There's a bit of back and forth with them through the episode, but basically they agree that they don't need games to keep the romance alive because they themselves could never be boring. Ray. Scott goes up to Rufus and he's like, gulp. I'm a big fan of your band Lincoln Hawk. He flopped. He couldn't do it. Now remember, Dan and Blair were concocting a plan to get rid of Serena's stalker, Carter Bazin. Blair's gone and got a restraining order against Carter, and she's going to be with Serena the whole time, so therefore Carter can't go anywhere near Serena. He's genius. Serena sees this drama happening, so she goes over and she's like, guys, what's going on? And Carter's like, cut this shit out or I'll spill the beans. Spill the beans? The beans on what? The beans on toast? What happened? But Serena's got a goal. She's got to go throw the first ball. But instead of throwing the ball a la Mariah, she suddenly is running away on a horse. And I'm not going to lie, this is so funny to me. Like, she's literally doing anything to get a paparazzi pic, and I respect that. So Carter gets on a horse and chases her, and he catches her and gives us a little context drop. Serena's been acting out to get the attention of her father, who pays her dust. Got me looking for attention. Serena's like, maybe he didn't get my messages, or maybe he doesn't know who I am. And Carter's like, doesn't matter. Your dad's not worth anything if he doesn't want to see you. He ate that one thing. Anyway, so now they're smooching. So basically, Serena has been gallivanting around Europe trying to get her dad's attention when he wouldn't respond to any of her attempts to get in touch after Carter found him. We are so up to speed right now, it's borderline shocking. Back at the Polo Sans Marco, Vanessa confronts Dan. She's like, don't be a stuck-up loser. Remember who you are. And he's like, please stop making me feel guilty about my newfound riches. Cece gave me this suit that I'm wearing, and Cece's sick, by the way. Lily's out looking after her. My dad's losing the plot, and Humphrey Nation is just generally tumultuous right now while we're transitioning to being a new Vander Humphrey unit, so please spare me the bullshit. At the end of the episode, Scott tells Vanessa, don't let your lifetime friendship with Dan be ruined because of this silly argument. The Humphreys seem like nice people. Let's not be reckless. Oh, I need to get close to them. Okay, so Nate and political enemy Bree. He brought her to the Polo Sans Marco to piss off grandfather William Vanderbilt, who surprisingly is like, I just want you to be happy. And if this is that, then that's fantastic. Let's celebrate you and Bree. I did not believe him for a second. Also, Bree's just kind of like, oh, this is weird. Like, why did you bring me to a family event? ? We find out that Bree is estranged from her family, but she's trying to get back in with them because when she ran off to Europe, like, fuck politics, fuck my family, my family. My family. While she was in Europe, she found out that her cousin got left at the altar, and then suddenly she's all, Dom Toretto family comes first. Family. So now she's trying to get back in with them. Bree and Nate decide they want to keep seeing each other, but it's going to have to be way more low-key and secret so she doesn't piss off her family, who famously hate the Vanderbilts. At the end of the episode, Grandpa William picks up the phone and he's like, beep, 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 beep. Trip. I finally found a way to get rid of the Buckleys. Ooh, he loves to be old and rich and meddling and political. Now, Lily is famously out of town, and she left an emergency fund, which Rufus has dived into to pay off all the paparazzi and buy all the pics of Serena on the horse so they don't go to print. But little does he know that Serena's doing deals herself and making sure that at least one paparazzo sells the photos where her father can't avoid them. So in terms of season plot setups, so far we've got the Scott bullshit, Nate and Bree, Serena and her dad and also Carter, Chuck and Blair working through normal people dating, Rich Dan. To me, the most interesting out of those plot lines is the Serena father one, and luckily I think it's done pretty well in the sense that it's messy, it's ridiculous, and it goes pretty much the whole season. So let's celebrate that. You may have noticed while I was doing the plot points that notoriously queenly main pop girl Jenny's being a bit quiet. But how long will that last? Some out of context information from this episode. We find out that Chuck slept with Ivanka Trump and Serena slept with Cristiano Ronaldo. Also, Serena makes a Goop reference, like Gwyneth Paltrow Goop reference. And this is fun because the episode aired September 2009 and Goop was founded in 2008. Okay. Not afraid to reference or not reference. This outfit is so Bert Hummel core. You better not be Bert Hummel when I get there. Rufus Humphrey if he drove a truck. So now we're in episode 2. And the squad is finally starting college. We have Dan, Blair, Vanessa, Georgina, and Scott at NYU. Blair is famously coming off being the HBIC at Constance, and she wants to create a similar dynamic at NYU. She feels like she needs to stay in the dorms to assert her dominance and build her minion army. Yes, like Gru. But I have issues with this in the same way that I had issues with Chuck and Nate taking the bus to school in the pilot episode. Because, I'm sorry, Blair Waldorf would not be caught dead in a dorm. Don't piss me off. So Blair's in this derogatory dormitory, and Georgina pulls up. She's like, hey roomie, what a coincidence. Remember at the end of season 2, she was pulling strings to be Blair's roommate. Now, as you know, I love Georgina Sparks. Yes, she is famously one half of the GCSPD, the Georgina and Carter School of Plot Devices. As we saw throughout season 1 and 2, when in doubt, throw in Georgina and or Carter and some ridiculous, far-fetched yet also iconic plotline. So it's just fantastic that we're starting season 3 and they're already involved.
Rah rah sis boom bah, Georgina's pulled a coup d'etat.
Rah rah sis boom bah, Georgina's pulled a coup d'etat. Well, yes. And I've actually always said that. You can check. I've been saying that for years. Okay, so dorm-wise, we have Blair and Georgina sharing, and Vanessa's also there. And who's her roommate? You'll find out soon. I think episode 3 or 4. It's a gag. So Blair's actively trying to assert dominance, and she's like, Dorota, we need to organize a party for these heathens quickly, which they do, but no one cares because they all went to Vanessa's documentary screening instead. If I'm being completely real, I would not be at this documentary screening, sorry. I'd be interested to know if NYU sued Gossip Girl, because anytime these students do anything, I'm like, oh my God, you're all so annoying. Like, this school is annoying me. As if you wouldn't go to a party thrown by Blair Waldorf. Like, even if she is a monster, her parties are notorious for being good. Now back to Georgina. Her dynamic's kind of like, hey Dan and Vanessa, I'm sorry that I'm insane and tried to screw everyone over in season 1. Oopsies, sorry. Can we be friends? Like we kind of were at the end of season 2 with Russian tea room Serena arrest gate. No? Oh. Okay, bye. Yes, them and the vocals. But then on the other side, with Blair, Georgina's actively trying to pull Blair down. After everyone goes to Vanessa's documentary night and fobs off Blair's party, Georgina's like, hey guys, I'm gonna have a party now, and Blair, you can't come. If it's up to me, you're always gonna be a loner at NYU. We also have Nate at Columbia, but I'm sure he never steps foot on that campus this season. Serena was supposed to go to Brown, and she's all packed and ready to go to Providence. And Rufus is like, yes, Serena, Lily and I are so proud of you. But then Serena pulls a, I'm going to Brown. Actually, I'm not, and gets in the limo to go to Brown, but instead goes to the Palace Hotel and asks Chuck if she can crash there. Chuck's like, yep, no worries, but you got to vacate tonight because I'm meeting with some businessmen to open a speakeasy. Don't piss me off. The grip the notion of opening a speakeasy has on these teen shows, like OK Veronica Lodge, they're always trying to turn some shit into a speakeasy. Enough! Anyway, Chuck is buying a venue to have a restaurant upstairs and a club downstairs, but he doesn't want these businessmen, these investors, to know about the club. But then Serena comes home too early and interrupts Chuck's meeting. She's like, oh my God, so cool that you're leasing this space to Chuck. Love the club idea. And they're like, what club? Oh, that's not. In the sense that deal is off and Serena screwed it all up for Chuck and he's mad at her. Serena goes to Casa Vanderwoodson, which famously now has a Humphrey Vermin problem. And she's there to get advice from Rufus about Browngate, and she comes clean about bailing on the first day. But it turns out Chuck ratted on her first, post speakeasy sabotage. Rufus is like, okay. If you go to Brown right now, we don't have to tell Lily. Let's sweep it under the rug. But Serena has decided once and for all that she is not going to Brown. She's not ready to be a college girl. On her way out of the casa, she calls Carter and she's like, let's go out tonight. Let's go crazy. So Georgina's party, right? Blair unfortunately has to get Dan to take her to Georgina's party. It's a disaster. Forget the 4 horsemen. The real evidence our world is coming to an end? Blair Waldorf needing Dan Humphrey to rescue her from social extinction. So Blair and Dan go to Georgina's rooftop party. Good Girls Gone Bad featuring Leighton Meester plays in the background. Good girls go bad. She mothered in a sisterly way when she jumped on that track. She auntied. It's so excellent. And she has such a good pop voice. I wish she kept making music. Same with Ashley Tisdale, Lucy Hale, Vanessa Hudgens. Anyway, like her handbags, Blair gets all genuine. And she thanks Dan for bringing her and says that she wants to get off on the right foot in college. And then Dan's response to that, to Blair being genuine, is to say, no headbands in college. And then pulls her headband off and throws it down the stairs?
No headbands in college, okay?
I didn't laugh. In fact, I was quite pissed off, as if Blair Waldorf needs to take fashion advice from evil Dan Humphrey. Anyway, the fashion at this party is very 2012 period piece, especially Blair. She's business casual. Boardroom to club in 5 minutes. Dan sees Georgina at the party and he apologizes for fobbing off her attempts at being friendly. And Georgina's like, no probs. Also, Blair is using you. Watch out. Dan's like, ugh, let's leave these childish high school games in the past. But Blair did use him to get into the party, and she is up to something because she invited all of Georgina's Jesus camp friends and they've got these pamphlets, and Blair's making it seem like Georgina threw the party to try and convert all these new students to Christianity. Then Blair gets up and invites everyone to a bar, but Dan and Vanessa are not having a bar of it. Right. So Dan gets up and he exposes Blair's plan to try and dominate everyone. Dan also has some social currency at NYU because everyone thinks he's this cool writer guy. So everyone's like, whoa, Dan, boo, Blair. Let's stay and party with Dan and Georgina. So Blair leaves alone. Serena's out with Carter, and what a coincidence. They run into Chuck, who's having a business meeting. Not a coincidence, babe. Serena wants to mess things up for Chuck because he ratted on her to Rufus. So she's conned Carter into participating in a little business meeting sabotage. Chuck's like, lady, I told Rufus because I'm genuinely concerned for you and these life decisions you're making. So now Serena feels bad, and to make things worse, Carter's like, cool. So you used me. The next day, Serena goes and apologizes to Rufus for the Brown drama, and she tells him that she actually deferred for a year, but she doesn't know how to tell Lily. And Rufus is like, don't worry, we'll work it out. We've got to work to work this out. She also chats with Blair, who says, I'm actually glad you're not going to Brown, because then we can keep hanging out. And she also goes to apologize to Carter for involving him in all her various bullshits, plural, as if he's her bad habit. And they're kissing, they've Dua Lipa kiss and made up. We also have Nate and political enemy Bree Buckley holding up in an apartment to Somi fast forward their relationship. Blah, blah, who cares? She finds out he's sentimental. Cool. Her family finds out they're dating, and she's like, well, if your family can accept us, then maybe mine can too. And if not, I don't give a fuck. At the end of the episode, it's the day after Georgina's party, and Vanessa calls Dan and she says, do you want to meet me and Scott so we can download about the epicness last night?
Do you want to meet me and Scott so we can download about the epicness last night?
No.
It's distressing for me to hear these things. Dan's on the phone like, oh, I'm wrecked. And we can see that he slept on the rooftop with Georgina. ? There's also some Scott drama because he's being weird about NYU, like giving Vanessa professor recommendations that don't make sense or saying he's at class when he's not. This continues into episode 3 and Vanessa starts to get suspicious. He's saying that he's at a comp theory study group, but he's actually getting guitar lessons from his unknowing biological father Rufus at Carsavanta Humphrey. He's kind of serving Tom Ripley. Yes, that is a reference to one of my all-time favorite movies, The Talented Mr. Ripley, the soundtrack of which I recently found out was sampled in the Iggy Azalea song Impossible Is Nothing. It's all connected, everything's connected, and you guys would do well to remember that. Vanessa goes and checks if Scott is even a registered student at NYU, and he is not. Dan and Georgina are making out again. This doesn't make sense to me, given the absolute shit she's pulled previously, like literally faking her identity to get with Dan to piss off Serena. But anyway, we move. There's a funny scene where Serena and Vanessa see Dan all disheveled coming out of Blair and Georgina's room, and this happens.
Please tell me it was Blair and not Georgina.
So now they know that he's hooking up with Georgina again. Also, we know that I have issues with Blair being in the dorms in the first place, but it makes even less sense now because her entire goal was to stay in the dorms to try and assert dominance. But then that plan failed. So now she's flopping severely, but still staying in the dorms, ? Also, every time they do the expository shot of the dorms, it's this. And I'm just looking at it like, is that not the entrance to the hotel where the Waldorfs live, but with a different sign? Dan tells Georgina that he doesn't want to be in a full-on relationship and just wants to keep things casual. And Georgina's like, yes, I was thinking the exact same thing. Yes, that's where I remember you from. I still have it. Like, yes, we are so in tune. The rest of this episode centers around an auction where we have Rufus bidding on something that Lily wants, and we also have Chuck and Blair bidding for the same exclusive photo. Chuck's bidding to gift it to someone that he's trying to go into business with, and Blair's bidding to use it to get into yet another secret society that she's been invited to. But then we find out that Georgina faked this high society invite to give Blair the runaround. Remember, they're famously having NYU turf wars. Serena and Carter are getting more and more serious, but there's a bunch of situations where Carter's shady past pops up, such as a random lady on the street being like, hey, remember me? Wink, wink. I can actually do a really classy wink. Yeah. Imagine you're at the bar. We're at the bar. Ugh. Okay. We're at the bar and I'm winking. Maybe I should start doing that because whatever I'm doing right now isn't working. But this all turns out to be a plan by Chuck and Blair to try and get Serena to not go for Carter because he's bad news and they're trying to protect her. And of course Serena's mad about this. Like, of course she is. Vanessa confronts Scott about not actually being an NYU student. And then he tells her that his real name is Scott Rosson and he's actually Lillian Rufus's secret undead son. And she's like, I mean, wow, talk about a bombshell. A new bombshell has entered the relationship. Scott says that his adoptive parents told him that Rufus and Lily don't give a fuck about him. But Vanessa tells him the truth about Lily and Rufus trying to find him and the adoptive parents saying that he died. Scott says that his younger brother Andrew was the one that died, which we, the viewer, knew, but Rufus and Lily didn't know. So wow, hello drama. He wants Vanessa to keep her mouth shut while he works out what to do, but of course Vanessa goes and starts running her mouth to Dan, but she doesn't get through the whole story, just that Scott isn't who he says he is. So Dan and Georgina start doing some sleuthing through soccer score histories or some shit. They find Scott's real last name and Dan's like, wait, I recognize that name. He's the guy that wrote me the fan letter in season 2. He's a stalker. He's stalking me. This is all about me. Dan is just so... No comment, actually. At the auction, Scott's about to tell Rufus the truth. But then it gets all messy because Dan turned up and he's like, stalker. And Vanessa's there like, no, he's not dangerous. He's just a bit weird. And then Scott tells Rufus that he's Rufus's son's brother, the brother of the dead son, thus therefore maintaining the lie that Rufus and Lily's son was Andrew, who died. This twist is so, like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care about Scott. I think we all don't care about Scott, actually. And where is Lily? Well, Mother Kelly Rutherford was recovering from literally having a baby. So she was so within her rights to avoid this Floppatron storyline. Serena confronts Blair and Chuck about the Carter sabotage, and they're like, well, he's bad news. When we banished him to Dubai, yeah, that's the thing that happened, he went to Greece. And then he went to Fiji. Serena's running the numbers. She's carrying the one. She's like, wait, Carter was looking for my dad. That's why we ended up in Santorini on a stolen boat trying to crash my father's wedding. Ladies, this is the Santorini reveal. Remember, in season 2, it was all, ooh, Santorini. What happened in Santorini? This reveal doesn't really make sense though, because in season 2, Serena was holding the truth about Santorini over Carter's head. I'll tell everyone the truth about what happened in Santorini. What? That he tried to help you find your dad? Okay. Now, who hears this Carter Santorini discussion at the auction? Political enemy Brie Buckley, no less. She's so Octavia Spencer Ma right now, like she's so Margif. After fucking up the dead undead biological son reveal, Scott decides to go back home. Vanessa tries to tell him to come back one day and tell Rufus everything, but he's like, no, I flopped too hard, I can't. And Georgina overhears the whole conversation, so now she knows everything. Yes, overhearing a conversation, a classic Gossip Girl trope. Also, this ring that Vanessa is wearing is insane. That thing is weighty. That would be her entire carry-on luggage. Not in terms of weight, in terms of sheer dimension. It would simply not fit in the overhead luggage compartment. I like how the writers continuously remind us that Vanessa Abrams is a day one trencher. She's always fighting for her life. Like, what do you mean Vanessa Abrams is involved in the dead undead biological son mess? Also, Chuck buys a hotel. I'm Chuck Bass. It's the Empire Hotel, okay? All caps Empire. He's using all his cash and assets to make a big move to build his own legacy outside the shadow of Bart. And Blair's like, yes. Love it. Love and support. And love and support, babe. Legacy. It is now time for Sister Jenny to properly enter the fray. At the end of season 2, she was gifted the keys to the kingdom by Blair, and with the new school year starting, she's stepping up, but also stepping sideways because she doesn't want to be the HBIC like Blair was. She wants to burn the kingdom down a little bit, yeah. So Jenny pulls up to school to start this new wave, but she's immediately greeted by 3 girls in classic Jenny style. They want to be her minions, and they want her to be Gru. They are clueless and grueless. Side note, this Jenny skirt length is so fundamentally unserious at an atomic level. Jenny summons the kingdom, okay? And she's like, guys, the hierarchy is over. But someone in the crowd listening is texting Blair like, babe, things are going south here, do something. In other news, we finally find out who Vanessa's roommate is. It's Hilary Duff, aka Olivia Burke, who is a mega famous actress that starred in a teen vampire trilogy, but she just wants a normal college experience at NYU. Everyone knows who she is. Everybody at NYU. Well, everyone except Dan, of course. He's too busy being sophisticated reading and writing to ever watch the equivalent of Twilight. That's beneath him. Dan has a chance encounter with this new girl who introduces herself as Kate, and she buys him a coffee and they start hanging out. I truly don't understand how a flop like Dan continues to bag bad bitches. Like, what the fuck is going on? I guess it's representative of society. Yep, watch out. We also have Rufus doing a Lily impression so Serena can practice telling her that she's not going to college.
Oh, Serena.
And to this impression, I say, Rufus, you'll never be me. Lily comes home. Thank God. It was simply not possible to fulfill the slay quota in the last few episodes with her absence. So she's back, and Serena tells her that she's not going to Brown, and Lily's like, well, no, you're going to Brown, don't piss me off. Serena's like, I would rather get a job than go to college. The concept of Serena Vanderwoodson with a job, with employment, is very scary. So then she starts doing interviews to get an internship or job or whatever, including at Tory Burch, where literal Tory Burch says,
Came highly recommended by Anna Wintour.
Anna is on the brink of losing my Met Gala invite again. It's so upsetting. I hope she finds it. All of Serena's interviews flop, so she goes to a fancy restaurant to decompress, and this is where she meets Olivia, who can't leave because the paparazzi are waiting outside the restaurant for her. Serena's like, babe, go through the back door in the kitchen. And Olivia's like, oh my God, thank you. Wait, I recognize you from the Met Gala. You're Serena Vanderwoodson. See, when you're Serena Vanderwoodson, Olivia's semi-psychotic PR agent, Casey, that's spelled KC, she's so like, Casey, you know? Casey witnesses this, and when Serena mentions that she's looking for a job, Casey suggests working in publicity since Serena nailed this Olivia backdoor exit strategy. And this works out so perfect for Casey because Olivia's got a movie premiere coming up and Casey needs help dealing with Olivia's co-star Ursula, aka Tyra Banks. The thing about Tyra Banks in the late 2000s is she was staying paid. Yes. Remember, she was also in Glee. Also, how is America's Next Top Model not in this universe? There are so many pop cultural references such as Gwyneth Paltrow and Goop. So I'm imagining like an alternate version of Gossip Girl where Serena turns up to help this Ursula person. She sees that it's Tyra Banks. She's like, why are you Tyra Banks undercover as someone called Ursula? Which is so something that Tyra Banks would do. It sounds like an ANTM challenge. Models, today I'll be going undercover as an actress named Ursula. I mean, when I only have one photo in my hands. Anyway, Serena's like, yes, job. I love job. And she meets Ursula, who's a little bit all over the place, but they're immediate oomphies. Ursula tells Serena about her big scene in the movie, but then Casey tells Serena that the scene's actually been cut, but not to tell Ursula because then she won't go to the premiere, and she wants Ursula to go to the premiere so that she publicly finds out that her scene's been cut and causes a scene and whips up a media storm. Bruh. Like, it's very bruh. Blair has jumped right back into Constance mode to tutor potential queens because Jenny is fucking up the status quo. So Blair's doing things like her annual Waldorf sleepover.
Blair, OMG BSE. Oh my God, best sleepover ever.
OMG BSE. But it's kind of like, you don't even go here anymore. It's kind of tragic. Like, tragedy has struck a little bit. Chuck's watching this unfold like, this is kind of cringe. How do I stop Blair from regressing to high schoolness? Because as Nikki said, this ain't high school. And it's not. Oh, you know what? Why don't I hit up my stepsister's potential stepsister, Jenny? With this villain alliance, Chuck can get Blair back and Jenny can keep running shit how she wants. Meanwhile, Dan is flirting with Kate saying, wow, you're so refreshingly normal. Unlike my famous ex Serena. And Kate, aka Olivia, is like, oh, that's not. So everyone's going to this Olivia movie premiere. Rufus has convinced Lily to go so that she can see Serena succeeding at job. Thus, therefore, maybe she doesn't need to go to college. Dan's been +1'd by Vanessa, who has an invite from her new roommate, Olivia. Jenny and Chuck arrive together, publicly, to cause a GG blast so that Blair snaps the fuck out of her psychosis. But also, about time Gossip Girl got up and did some work. Like, damn. Chuck and Jenny's plan works, and Blair comes to the premiere, and Chuck's like, babe, you need to remember that you're Blair Waldorf. Who cares if the NYU flops aren't minionizing? Blair remembers who she is, and everything changes. She gets a slaylicious paparazzi photo because she's Blair Waldorf, but we actually find out later that Chuck paid the photographer to take the photo so she'd feel special. Okay, twice. Dan finally meets the real Kate, aka Olivia in Kristen Stewart's Superstar Twilight mode. And she's like, as much as I want to be Kate, I'm also Idge Bolivia, and my job is my job. Sorry, bye. After finding out that her scene's been cut, Ursula, aka Tyra Banks, blows up, and Casey tries to direct the shrapnel towards the paparazzi to get press. But Serena tells Ursula not to do that, so Casey fires Serena. Her employed era has lasted 3 seconds. The next day, Serena's packing her bags, not to go to Brown, but to move out because she can't find herself in this $1 trillion penthouse. So instead, she's going to go live in the quadrillion-dollar Waldorf penthouse. Olivia talks to Vanessa and realizes that she wants to pursue things with Dan. And we get a scene of Dan seeing a fedora in a cafe and thinking it's Olivia, which made me fucking piss. Because imagine your recognizable style being fedora. Anyway, Dan and Olivia meet up and they're going to give things a proper go. Jenny gives in to the minions' relentless attempts to turn her into Gru and finally starts giving them instructions. Vanessa's been trying to check in with Scott to see how he's going. But he fobs off Vanessa to go hang out with Georgina, who's in Boston for in-person plotting after overhearing the Scotty. I'm convinced that Georgina Sparks had never touched a pen or paper. She's enrolled at NYU, but she's finding any reason to not be on the campus. Yeah. We start episode 5 with just absolute insanity. We have Dan talking to Olivia on his laptop like this.
It lifts us up where we belong.
I could not believe it. You're going to break your laptop flop. What are you doing? Also, how dare you Idge bowl so fiercely in public? It's weird. Georgina's back and she's been blowing up Dan's phone like, hey Dan, hello my boyfriend Dan. What is up, boyfriend Dan? And when Dan gives her nothing, she goes to Vanessa, who says, oh, Dan's kind of dating international superstar Olivia Burke. Georgina does a quick plotting session and says, well, Vanessa, you're going to make sure that Dan dumps her, or I'm going to tell everyone who Scott really is. Yes, the Scotty. Remember, Georgina famously eavesdropped and then went to Boston in the middle of the term to follow the lead. And as we know, Vanessa is first and foremost struggling at all times, in all capacities. So it's iconic that this Scott situation has somehow become her problem. Under Georgina's orders, Vanessa calls Dan and says shit to try and get Dan suspicious of Olivia. But it backfires because Dan tells Jenny and Eric that he thinks Vanessa's trying to break him and Olivia up. And they're like, well, yeah, because she's in love with you. Oh, so Dan goes to Vanessa and says, hey, sorry that you love me. I like Olivia. And Vanessa reveals that Georgina's been blackmailing her. With what? With the news that Scott is actually your secret dead undead brother? Oh. In other news, we find out that political enemy Bree Buckley knows Carter Bazin, but it is not in a chummy manner. Remember how I mentioned that Bree's cousin was left at the altar by some crusty guy? Well, that crusty guy was Carter Bazin. Yeesh. Because of Browngate, Lily was mad at Rufus for not seeing eye to eye with her. So these two are a little bit vodka on the rocks right now. But it doesn't last very long because they're both like, let's not let these dramas keep getting between us. Let's get married tomorrow. Which would be shocking if the title of the episode wasn't Rufus Getting Married. And it wouldn't be a Gossip Girl wedding without an absolute shit show of drama. We have Georgina on X Games mode, pissed off at Dan. So she's bringing Scott fresh off the bus from Boston straight to the wedding. Slight sidestep here. Chuck hates Carter and wants him gone. So after finding out about the Buckley cousin situation, he tells Carter you can either come to the wedding, tell Serena what the fuck is going on, potentially deal with Bree's family right then and there, or you can take this plane ticket and fuck off and prove to Serena that you're a piece of shit. Like, oh my god. Wait, I need to have my knees up. Like, oh my god. Time and place. Carter chooses Serena, so he shows up at the wedding and explains the whole situation. Back in the day, he had a huge gambling debt, so he found this rich girl and proposed to her so that her rich family would pay off his gambling debts, and then he left her at the altar. Just outrageous and nasty. Where's the grace? Where's the class? Where's the decorum? None in sight. Serena hears this and she's like, you're done. Rufus and Lily are about to get married, but then Lily's like, Rufus, can I pull you for a chat, babe? So they're sort of around the corner chatting about getting married, and then Serena sees supervillain Georgina get up and head in that direction, so she chases after her with this Avengers-type squad. So Rufus and Lily are talking, and then Scott pulls up, and he's like, hey, you guys getting married? Lily's like, who the fuck are you? You're being rude, get lost. So he's like, okay, bye, and walks off just as Georgina turns up and drops the bomb that Scott is their son. Rufus is like, no, Scott is our dead son's brother. But then Dan and Vanessa turn up and they're like, well, actually, no. Scott is your son. He chickened out and said that he wasn't, and also the adopted parents lied. First 4 letters of my last name, mess. Mess. And Lily just told Scott to fuck off. So she and Rufus chase after him. They catch up to him just as he's about to get on the bus. Scott loves the bus. And they apologize to him and they all hug, blah, 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 blah. Rufus and Lily get married that night at Casa Vanderhumphrey. So now Dan and Serena are officially step-siblings. Not sure how this impacts the step-siblingfication of Serena and Chuck. Because what happens if your spouse dies and you remarry? That's not technically a divorce, right? So how does that work with the dead ex-spouse's kids? If you remarry, how are they all related? I don't even know how to Google that. Anyway, freshly revealed Scott is chummy with everyone, but he's still like, I'm going to go back to Boston, but maybe I'll come back in the holidays. Spoiler alert, he's not coming back. Ever. He's done. The secret dead undead son with the drowned adopted brother plotline gets capital D dropped. All of this for nothing. And you know what? Let's celebrate that. I'm so done with it, I don't want to hear anything. And we won't. Carter apologizes to Serena and faces up to the Buckleys. Nate confronts Bree about using him to get to Carter and she says, well, family comes first. So then they break up. I don't care and I didn't move. Serena tries to call Carter, but he's kind of giving kidnapped vibes. Like he's in a car with the Buckley cousins. Yeah, it's going to be bad for him. Also, Georgina did not get away from all of this scot-free. Turns out Blair set up Dorota and Dolman Vanya to con Georgina into thinking a Belarusian prince wants her to come celebrate an oil pipeline opening. Can we quickly talk about how atrocious these wedding outfits were? What the hell is going on here? You know what's bad when two certified servers of the realm, Jenny and Lily, fail to turn a look, let alone the fact that Lily is flopping on her wedding day. I could not believe it. It shocked me. It gave me chills. We also found out in this episode that Georgina got Poppy Lifton deported, which closes out that plotline from the end of season 2 for those looking for answers. Episode 6 is fun because Blair dreams that she's in All About Eve, and the title of the episode is Enough About Eve. We have a returning character, Nate's cousin Trip. Trip! A red one. Convict Gaga. He's running for a House seat in Manhattan or something. American politics, am I right? Nate is volunteering for Team Trip Red One Convict Gaga's campaign because the political enemy Buckley's campaign ads are pissing him off. He's also heard that the Buckleys are trying to export Carter Slazen to an oil rig with nefarious, torturous intentions. And he tells Serena, who's like, but don't worry, S. Nate's got a plan. Bree's cousin PJ Buckley, Pajama Buckley, he plays seedy underground poker, so the plan is to get him to play for Carter. But why would PJ Buckley agree to this? Well, Nate has a picture of Trip in a compromising position with drug paraphernalia, which would be great for the Buckleys campaign. Small issue, PJ hates Nate and would never play poker with him, so Serena's gonna have to play. And she loses, so PJ gets the photo. Nate's like, no! But then it turns out he's been plotting with Grandpa William. And the plan involved PJ getting the photo and using it against Trip Red One Convict Gaga. But then the Vanderbilts can be like, this photo is fake. The Buckleys have no integrity. This is the real photo. And the real photo is just Trip sitting normal. The real Trip. I think my favorite thing about saying Trip Red One Convict Gaga is that Gaga never actually says Trip in Just Dance. She says truth. But my brain, she thinks it's Trip. You could play me the song right now and I'd be like, Trip! A rare one. Not everyone would get it, and that's okay. Anyway, Nate feels bad that Serena got caught in this political drama, but he does not give a fork. If I had a fork, I would lift it. He does not give a fork about Carter Bazin. Now, the main drama in this episode is a big speech called the Freshman Toast at an NYU dinner, and the speech initially goes to Vanessa, so she calls her mum and invites her to the dinner. But little does she know, Blair is plotting to secure the speech for herself. Yummy freshman toast. The flavors. Yum, yum, yum. Remember from season 2 that Vanessa's parents are famously anti-establishment, so she's feeling a bit queasy, a bit queso dip, if you will, about inviting them to this fancy university party. We also have Olivia, aka Hilary Duff, back from Japan. And it turns out NYU originally asked Olivia to do the speech and she was like, eh. But now, because Dan is like, hey, want to come to the freshman toast? She's like, well, yes. And I'll do the speech too. She doesn't know that she's potentially screwing over her roommate Vanessa. Also, lol, because Dan wasn't going to invite Olivia, but Vanessa was like, invite her, come on, invite her. And here we are. Vanessa has once again driven her own Uber to the struggle citadel. Blair finds out that Olivia is speeching and tells Vanessa, who's like, oh shit, let's go, and starts trying to finesse an Olivia uninvite by telling Dan that Olivia's too nervous to meet his parents at the toast. So he cancels going and he's like, hey, Olivia babe, let's just not go to the toast and have a cute date night in, yeah? ta X. So Olivia is out of speeching, Vanessa's back in. Olivia's hitting Vanessa's line like, oh my god, why did he uninvite me? And Vanessa's juggling all these lies, and her mum's in town who hates universities and celebrities. So she's like, it's because Rufus and Lily hate shallow celebrities. Sorry, bye. So now Olivia's pissed at Dan and wants to be starting something, Michael Jackson 1982. So she's feeling crazy. She's like, hey Dan, let's go to the freshman toast dinner. She's hungry and she wants some freshman toast. Elsewhere, Blair cons Chuck into kissing a man named Josh Ellis, who's in charge of picking the freshman toaster, by saying Josh is her mind games target. So Chuck's like, yes ma'am. But it turns out she made a deal with Josh that if he gets to kiss Chuck, he'll give Blair the toast. The kiss happens and Blair gets the toast, and Chuck is pissed. Not because Blair conned him into kissing a man, he's done that many times, babe, get with the program, but because she lied to him and tricked him, because the people she manipulates, she has no respect for. At the dinner, Blair tells Vanessa that she snatched the speech.
When will you learn? Some people are simply better than others.
Nasty! Dan introduces Olivia to Rufus and Lily, but she's acting out because of the fake news Vanessa told her, so she's being all evil LA influencer. The truth comes out. Dan and Olivia realize that Vanessa conned them. It's about to get real messy. Vanessa confronts Blair about why she thinks she's better than her, and Blair starts ranting and reveals all her actions like, I did what I had to do to get this speech, including lying to Chucky ass. Little does Blair know, Vanessa secretly has a microphone broadcasting this entire rant to everyone at the party, including Chuck. It is so Scooby-Doo. The villain reveals their plan and gets unmasked because of the meddling kids. Also, please, the secret microphone thing is so Disney, like, gulp. She's right behind me, isn't she? Babes, it's a fucking mess right now. Chuck is mad at Blair. Olivia and Dan are mad at Vanessa. When Vanessa's explaining to everyone what the fuck happened and why this speech was so important for her, she says that she wishes Rufus and Lily were her parents, which her mother Gabriella overhears. Oh, that's not. Olivia ends up giving the speech, and Rufus and Lily find out about the fake news regarding them hating Olivia. Misunderstanding understood. Blair and Vanessa even make up a little bit. Vanessa's mum Gabriella, however, is not vibing Vanessa after this drama, and she says, think about the person NYU is turning you into. Serena contacts PJ and reveals the fake photo, real photo plan, which settles the Carter drama, but then obviously creates Serena-Nate drama. Carter finds out that Serena saved him and gets kind of pissy, like, this was a me problem. You didn't need to solve this for me. I'd rather you hate me than feel sorry for me. And then he leaves and Serena's kind of gagged. Episode 7 is Halloween, but it is not that serious. It is not a Pretty Little Liars level event. It's not a national holiday. We really don't give a fuck. Chuck is stressing because he wants his hotel to succeed. Remember, he bought a hotel like, fuck yeah, I'm a businessman. Blair's like, babe, open the underground club and throw a party. That'll drive up bookings, but he's like, nah, I gotta do my own thing. Blair thinks that he's still mad at her because of Kissed a Man Gate, so she goes ahead with planning the party anyway. Meanwhile, Dan has been watching Olivia's movies. She's in a series called Endless Nights with a K, Endless Nights, and it's a vampire drama. Remember, season 3 of Gossip Girl was airing at the end of 2009, so we're in peak Twilight fever. In fact, this episode came out about a month before New Moon. Dan's stressing because Nate told him that Olivia dated her sexy co-star Patrick Roberts in real life. So when he's watching her make out with him in the movie, he's like, oh. There's a Gossip Girl blast about Olivia buying condoms, but then there's a Perez Hilton entry about it as well. Like, whoa. I thought this was a classy party. Now, this Patrick Roberts is also managed by evil PR demon Casey, who Serena works for. Remember Ursula Gate? And Casey fired Serena, but then Ursula threatened to fire Casey unless she rehires Serena. Casey's like, Serena flop. You need to break up Dan and Olivia. We need Patrick and Olivia together because he needs press, otherwise he's gonna fall off. Blair comes to talk to Serena about opening the club, and Serena's like, I don't think Chuck was doing that yet. But then Chuck calls Serena and says that he wants her help opening the club tomorrow, and he doesn't want Blair anywhere near it. This is all happening on loudspeaker, by the way, and Blair hears all of it.
I don't want Blair anywhere near this.
Okay, bye.
Looks like Chuck still doesn't trust her. Jenny's having a little bit of a power struggle because she doesn't want to be mean, but the minions need a display of power. Eric and Jonathan are sitting in her spot on the Met steps. Oh my god, I can't do this. This is too stressful. They're sitting in her spot and she has to get nasty when they don't move, and Jonathan says,
looks like Jenny, sounds like Jenny is really a dark, power-hungry monster.
Sir, you could back up a little bit. This happens again the next day when Jonathan decides to take a stand against evil tyrant Jenny and sits above her on the steps. You can't do that. You just can't. Does the monarchy mean nothing to you, Jonathan? Jojo, have you learned nothing? Jenny says move, flop, but he doesn't. So she has to resort to military measures and gets her minions to dump yoga on Eric. Drama. On the other side of town, Serena is leveraging Casey's contacts to make Chuck's opening exciting. This involves inviting Patrick, and Olivia's also going to be there with Dan, so potential PR opportunity. Chuck is stressing because he can't secure a liquor license in time, but then suddenly he gets a call that it's been cleared. Not to get all high school essay right now, but who, what, when, where, why? Turns out Blair's trying to get Chuck's trust back by helping out, and she's called in a favor from Jack Bass to expedite the liquor license. Serena asks Olivia if she can pretend arrive with Patrick and just meet Dan inside, and Olivia's like, ugh, fine. But Dan gets all shitty about this PR relationship situation like he didn't sign up for this. You're not a tree, you can move. He's dating this mega famous actress and gets all pissy when she has to do a little PR work. We as a society are letting him get away with too much. Here's no context Rivers in a wig. At Chuck's party prep, the liquor license guy drops off the liquor license and mentions Jack Bass. And Chuck's like, what the hell? Why, you little Serena? No, it wasn't me. Chuck finds out that it was Blair who called Jack, and piss offenings are now. Famously, no good deed goes unpunished. Blair's like, ugh, does it really matter? You got the liquor license, babe. And Chuck uninvites her. Later on at the party, Blair turns up anyway and apologizes, but it's double uh-oh because Jack's liquor license was fake. So it looks like Chuck's party is about to get busted for having a fake liquor license. Also at the party, we have Jenny being demon girl and getting back at Eric and Jonathan by throwing eggs at Jonathan. Yes, I do in fact have issues with this damn speakeasy club shit. Why would Jenny, Eric, and Jonathan be allowed in a club? Or any of them, for that matter. None of them are over the age of 21. Also, Serena's working in PR for KC and also doing PR work at the club opening for Chuck, which involves standing at the front waiting for Patrick Roberts to turn up. If Serena Vanderwoodson started working the door at a club, wouldn't the paparazzi that have been up her ass for months be like, huh? Anyway, the police arrive and shut down the party. Ooh. But then we find out that Chuck called the police on himself. Ooh. Chuck and Blair came up with a little plan to call the police on themselves and get some press before evil Uncle Jack dobs them in for the fake liquor license. It's a little bit genius. Serena's mad because now she's got to get her clients out before they get papped at a raided party. I'm gonna lose me job. And Blair's like, we needed their clout. YOLO, no big deal. I'm Team Blair on this. Serena, what is this job you're doing? You've also been doing it for about 5 minutes. Calm down. Serena's doing damage control and organizes a paparazzi picture of Olivia kissing Dan. And the paparazzi are like, Olivia, if you're dating this random crusty guy Dan, then who's dating Patrick? And Serena's like, me. Haha. Chuck's little club stunt works and bookings skyrocket, and he and Blair make up. Serena, however, has contracted the Blair strain of hateritis, so they hate each other at the minute. Eric finds out about the minion egging of Jonathan and tells Jenny that he wants nothing to do with her monstrous self. Now fully evil queen, Jenny's throwing out her old clothes, and we get a good Gossip Girl quote about Halloween. Everything returns to the way it was, except for little girls who forget that Halloween only lasts one night. They wear their costumes for so long, pretty soon they can't even remember who they were before they put them on. My internal voice while I was saying that was telling me that that accent was really good. I feel like I'm improving, guys. And then Jenny throws her sewing machine in the trash pile. The sewing machine is core Jenny Humphrey lore. Little J is losing the plot, like she's mid-plot loss. In episode 8, Casey tells Serena, clean up your mess or clean out your desk. Okay. Patrick is potentially getting a role in a political thriller, and Casey wants him at Trip Red One Convict Gaga's election night party. But Serena's like, gulp. Nate and I are kind of beefing right now. Remember Carter Bay's and Poker Photogate? So this Trip Vanderbilt campaign thing, Vanessa is now filming it. She's like, thank you so much for letting me make a Vanessa-umentary about this. If I was Nate, I would absolutely not allow it given her track record. She was making a Vanessa-umentary at the pool party in season 1 and then someone nearly died. She made a Vanessa-umentary at the school play where we found out that Dan was sleeping with a teacher. Nothing good happens when she has that damn camera out. Nate and Trip are walking near the Hudson River, famously named after Kate Hudson, and Trip saying, ooh, poll results are not looking good. Vanessa's also there. She's recording people asking who they're voting for. And then suddenly, someone's drowning in the Kate Hudson River and Trip Red One Convict Gaga dives in to save him. And Vanessa catches the whole thing on camera. This shit gets reported all over the news, and political grandpa William Vanderbilt is rubbing his hands together like a praying mantis. Yes, good press. It starts swaying the polls in Trip's favour, and Nate's like, foul play detected. And it wouldn't be surprising since William Vanderbilt is literally MPG, meddling political grandpa. One of the news stations wants to buy Vanessa's footage, so she's going through it, and she sees that the drowning man purposefully jumped in, so it was a setup. With Serena and Blair actively beefing, Blair's like, ugh, I don't need you. I'm making so many friends at NYU. Serena's not buying it. She's like, me when I lie. Can't wait to see them all at the election party tonight. So Blair's like, fuck, now I gotta make a friend with quickness, speed, and haste. At the NYU College Cafe, she meets this girl named Brandeis who has a Slaylicious Valentino bag, and Blair's like, let's be friends. Come to this high society party tonight. Serena, meanwhile, has managed to finesse an invite for herself and Patrick through Trip Red One convict Gaga. There's another plotline happening of Olivia going on Jimmy Fallon. Sorry, Freudian slip. Jimmy Fallon, and Dan's like, oh, I'm going to watch the footage. But Olivia's stalling so that he doesn't watch it, and everyone's calling him bathroom boy. So he's like, what the fuck is going on? When Dan and Olivia are at Cars of Vander Humphrey, Olivia sees a Gossip Girl blast come through about Dan being bathroom boy, and she deletes it off his phone before he can read it. Let's just revisit that conceptually. Olivia deletes a Gossip Girl blast off Dan's phone before Dan can read it. Cool. Also, this message is so... Later on, Dan is on Olivia's computer and comes across this Jimmy Fallon interview for the first time and watches it. Turns out people are calling him bathroom boy because in her Jimmy Fallon interview, Olivia told a story about how on their first date, Dan went to the bathroom and came back with his shirt inside out because he found a spider in it. But Jimmy Fallon was like, lol. He took all his clothes off to go to the bathroom. Bathroom boy. Right? Bathroom boy. At the Trip Red One convict Gaga election night party, it is scissor mess galore. Serena's there with Patrick, who's a bum, like he's just a bum. Blair's there with her brand new best friend Brandeis, who somehow knows all these high profile politicians. Turns out it's because she's a call girl. Well, yes. Vanessa told Nate about the drowning stunt that she uncovered and says that she's going to sell the footage anyway because the people, capital T, capital P, need to know. And Nate goes political felon mode, as is his birthright, and manages to set up a fake news reporter to act as the news reporter that Vanessa was selling her footage to so that he can secure it. Lead single of Esper's next mini-album, November 10, Drama. The fake drowning story breaks anyway, and everyone's like, Trip Red One convict Gaga is like evil meddling political grandpa, how could you? But William's like, wasn't me. Instigated a fake drowning. Wasn't me. Tripp says that he's going to withdraw from the race unless William admits to it. Serena confronts Blair about Brandeis, and Blair's like, lol, you can talk. You're getting paid to date your clients. The only prostitute here is you. So Serena pushes Blair into a cake.
Come on, Chuck. I want some cake.
Before Trip Red One convict Gaga can withdraw, Nate gets up and says that he set up the fake drowning. Trip wins the election at his big age of 26 or whatever. Turns out Maureen, Trip's wife, instigated the drowning setup. Okay, Miss Meddling Political Wife, I see you. Okay, ladies, now let's inform the news stations. Okay, ladies, now let's rig this election. She tells William that it was her idea and it's perfect because Trip thinks that William did it, which means that Trip is now free of William's talons and Maureen can step up as main felonious political advisor. Chuck tells Serena that she needs to grow up and apologize to Blair, so she does. And Blair's like, you need to be fucking for real, girl. What the hell are you doing? Just in general. My whole life up until this point has been Serena this and Serena that. Serena, Serena, Serena. But now, I've got college. I've got Chuck. What have you got? Carter? A shit job, immature decisions, a bad attitude. We're done. Every time Blair and Serena fight, it feels like one of those animal beef TikToks, like Secretary Bird versus Giraffe. Now, being dragged across the concrete by her slicked back ponytail by Blair has woken Serena up and she quits her Casey Minion job. Olivia apologizes to Dan about Bathroom Boy and he's like, it's funny. Also, I lied. There was no spider. I took my shirt off because I was so nervous to go on a date with you that I sweated through it and needed to take it off to dry it under the hand dryer. Ew. Imagine going to the bathroom and Flop Flopfree is there shirtless, drying a sweaty shirt under the hand dryer. The end of the episode is Serena and Trip Red One convict Gaga at hotel bar, and they're both like, today was a long day. Yeah, today really took it out of me, right? And they're sitting there, and they're both kind of like, wait a minute, you're kind of... Yeah, oh, okay. Oh, okay, yeah. Drip or drown, I guess. Are you wearing the discontinued Peggy Goo Kieran line? Yeah, I am. This umbrella, I've named the dog Diva. My glasses, I can't see with my glasses. Episode 9 is the start of an insane 3-episode run. This episode is Cotillion, about which Blair says, it's not like your wedding, you only get to do Cotillion once. Now a full-time Upper East Side monster, Jenny's hunger for power is not satiated by being the HBIC at Constance. She needs to conquer the entire Upper East Side via Cotillion, and to do that she needs the hottest escort, who apparently is some guy named Graham Collins. Mama, that name sounds like a cocktail. The way in which Jenny has flipped from being like, fuck the monarchy, to we love the monarchy, Blair Waldorf is not a legitimate leader. Jenny's still very insecure though, especially right now preparing for cotillion surrounded by all these high society types who already know how to ballroom dance. At the end of the day, she's just a Brooklyn nobody. She hails from the poverty loft. Now remember, Jenny and Eric are at war right now. Eric finds this random girl named Kira who thinks that Jenny's really cool and Graham Collins lives in her building so she could help Jenny out. But Eric's there like, ooh, let me listening to this nugget of information. He finds Jenny trying to learn the dance moves by herself and they sort of make up and he's like, maybe you can take Jonathan to cotillion. He has high society blood. Jenny's like, oh my God, but I've been such a monster to you guys. He would never agree to that. But Eric's like, I'll talk to him, babe. Thanks, Eric. What a nice guy. Then when Jenny leaves, Eric sees on Jenny's phone that Graham Collins wants to be her escort and he replies as Jenny, already got one, thanks. Already got one, thanks. I guess Eric thinks he's saving Jenny by tearing her down a bit and trying to reintegrate her back into normalcy with him and Jonathan. Serena does a job interview and now works for Trip Red One convict Gaga. Nothing ended up happening that other night in the bar. And Serena's famously looking for a job and things have lined up with the Trip Vanderbilt campaign. So now she's doing some late night work with him, but uh-oh, they've got chemistry. But he's Mr. Busy married congressman. So Trip gets all serious and he's like, Serena, maybe you should go home and come back tomorrow. And then the next day he's like, I wanted to give you this job to help you out, but I didn't realize how much having you here would affect me. Bruh. Let us just consider this dynamic. Trip is a married 26-year-old congressman and Serena is a 19-year-old intern. But when has a weird age gap ever stopped anyone in these teen shows? Ezra Fitz. What was that? Guys, what was that? I'm really scared, you guys. Jenny finds out from random girl Kira that Graham Collins received her thanks but no thanks text and was like, oh. And Jenny's like, oh, and goes and blows up at Eric. Blair tries to intervene and advise Jenny as a cotillion mentor, and Jenny turns her missile sights to Blair and says, I don't need your advice. I'm queen, you're not, your era's over. Ooh, little J, small J, that was ill-advised. So when Jenny goes to secure Mr. Graham Collins' cocktail, Blair, Eric, and Kira team up and they're like, absolutely not. We need to deal with her. At cotillion, Jenny's looking for Mr. Graham Collins' cocktail and runs into Nate, who, as we know, likes to attend the occasional high society event. Little does little J know that Blair and Eric have organized for Mr. Graham Collins' cocktail to go to cotillion with random girl Kira. Speaking of Blair, Chuck and Nate orchestrate a meeting between her and Serena by posing as the other asking to meet to apologize. So Blair thinks that Serena's going to apologize and Serena thinks that Blair's going to apologize. It's a classic stitch up. So the girlies meet and they're like, so what now? One of the interns here said that you make music for gays. I do. What's she looking at me for? I'm not the one that said it. What's wrong with that? And then they get stuck in an elevator together, which is like the second time that this has happened to Serena. Famously, remember the power outage with Dan? And then a puppet version of Sue Sylvester called Jigsaw comes out of the wall of the elevator on a trike. Turns out Chuck turned off the elevator to force them to talk things over. It's just like they say. Sometimes the only way to resolve a conflict with your best friend is to have your boyfriend / her stepbrother lock you both in an elevator at cotillion. The plan works though. Serena reveals to Blair how she went hunting for her father through Europe and how he doesn't give a fuck about her and how now she might be getting into the thick of it with Mr. Trip Red One convict Gaga too fast. Altercation resolved, Chuck lets them out of the elevator. So Jenny's about to debut at cotillion, which is such a funny notation to me. Like, yes, she's about to debut on the cotillion Hot 100 chart. So she's about to debut. And then the Blair and Eric sabotage happens and Mr. Graham Collins is announced as escorting Kira, not Jenny, which means that Jenny doesn't have an escort, which is Shonda Rhimes scandalous. I mean, as usual, a little humiliation for Jenny as a treat. But as we know, Jenny's from the streets of Brooklyn, and she is scrappy. She calls in a favor with Nate and has him escort her during her re-debut on the cotillion charts. This is huge. Nate is a big deal on the Upper East Side. In fact, when he escorts Jenny, someone at the cotillion says, Nate Archibald is epic. So Jenny won, basically. Blair's like, damn, that was kind of queenly. You really turned up and swiped your queen card. No. I need to be clear on something. I'm sick of seeing people talking about Y2K when they mean McBling. You mean McBling. What happened to pop culture history research? Get it together, people. The other plotline here is that Hilary Duff has nearly finished her Gossip Girl run, which means Olivia has to exit stage left. And that news breaks in the form of her Endless Nights series having another installment announced, so it sounds like she's gonna have to leave NYU and get to work, lest her bills be affected. Dan and Vanessa are like, oh no, this is terrible. We need to do a 15 things every college student should do before graduation list together. So they do. They're drinking and going through the list and realize they've completed 14 of the 15 things. What's left? A threesome. So Dan, Vanessa, and Olivia have a threesome. I think for us to fully process the threesome, We need to have a 3-minute silence. Thanks everyone. While this is happening, there's an a cappella cover of Whatever You Like by T.I. playing. And I could not believe it. Stacks on deck, Patron on ice, we can pop bottles all night. I mean, yeah, you can have whatever you like. After the threesome, we see a text come through on Olivia's phone from KC saying that the director pulled out, so the movie's not happening anymore, which means she's not leaving. Oh. Also in this episode, Nate asks Chuck what Serena and Blair are even fighting about this time, and Chuck says they're fighting over how one loves the other more than the other loves them, which I thought was funny. Jonathan breaks up with Eric, causing shockwaves among the queer community of the Upper East Side. He says he heard about the drama of Jenny debuting with Nate on Gossip Girl, which doesn't make sense, but I can't say why without spoiling. And Jonathan also says he thinks Eric has stooped to Jenny's level. Ooh, bye Jonathan, you will not be missed. Ah yes, remember when they framed him as being Gossip Girl at the end of season 2, but then it turned out he had just hacked Gossip Girl's server during summer break because he was bored? Good times. Important thing to note here is Jenny thinks only Blair and Kira were responsible for the Mr. Graham Collins cocktail drama, not Eric. She thinks Eric bowed out of the battle when she confronted him about texting Graham from her phone. Serena goes to quit from the Trip Red One Convict Gaga campaign. There's too much drama, she's got to leave. Trip's like, no, oh God, please, no. You're too good at this job and I want this to work, so let's just be professional and friendly. Right. At the end of the episode, Lily receives a letter addressed to Serena from her father, William Vanderwoodson. Oof. Orphanings are now. Absolutely insane episode, but we haven't even covered the fact that the Cotillion Band are performing a song called Bitch that goes, I'm a bitch in disguise. I'm a bitch ITCH. at cotillion. I was laughing so hard when I heard that because as if these crusty, stuck-up high society types would be like, yes. For the band, let's get them to sing that song that goes, I'm a bitch. Yes, I love that song. In episode 10, Blair is trying to get in with the Tisch school kids at NYU as part of her plan to hashtag conquer the college. Now these Tisch kids are very artsy and snobby and I am in fact very scared of them, yes. If there are any real life Tisch students watching this, you need to vouch for your kind because I am scared. If I told Tisch students I was writing a movie, I feel like they would spit at me. Anyway, these Tisch kids are trying to book Tisch alum Lady Gaga for a performance and they couldn't get her, so they're literally so upset. Blair's there Margif listening like, Chuck's trying to garner international clientele by impressing a diplomat by showing his son around the city. The son in question is Damien Dalgard, and Chuck walks into cars of Vander Humphrey with Damien in tow, and Jenny's like, hey! And she takes over duties of showing Damien around New York. He's fucking around with sailboats in Central Park, and Jenny's like, can you please stop? This is embarrassing. But then Jenny realizes that Damien was using the sailboats to sell drugs. Oh. Okay, so he's a bad boy. A Red Velvet's second album, The Perfect Red Velvet track 1 bad boy perhaps. 1, 2, 3, Dan, Olivia, and Vanessa. Post threesome, Dan's talking to Nate about it, and Nate mentions how Vanessa is in bed. And I'm like, I thought this was a classy party. The way in which everyone has dated everyone, there's also way more layers to this onion because remember, Dan and Vanessa were childhood friends and he asked her out and she said no. And then she popped back up in season 1 pining after Dan and he was like, no, I'm with Serena. Anyway, Nate tells Dan that the threesome was a bad idea because it's going to create a weird dynamic in the group. And he's absolutely right because things are getting awkward. Dan's trying to hang out with Vanessa to prove that they're still just friends. And Olivia wants to hang out with Dan, but he's preoccupied with Vanessa. So Olivia's saying that she organized this thing a month ago, but then all of them are saying they aren't avoiding each other. Mess. This entire plotline is mess, and trying to explain it is very much also mess. So I'm going to jump ahead and tell you that this all culminates in Dan, Olivia, Vanessa, and Blair all working together on a Snow White play with Lady Gaga songs, which goes to shit.
She's toned up. I'm bitchy.
And it is shit.
Bye, what talent you small people have.
Dan wrote it and Vanessa's directing it. I mean, it was cursed from the beginning. Vanessa and Olivia start arguing during rehearsals and the power dynamics from the threesome come up and Olivia thinks that Vanessa's in love with Dan. They push through and do the show because Blair blackmails them into it and we get this.
Wanna kiss you, but if I do, then I might miss you, babe.
Cause if I do, then I might miss you, babe. This play, oh my god, it is so bad. What the hell was going on in society that we got to a point where this was allowed? Both in terms of Dan's atrocious playwriting and the episode writing, this is obscene. Cause if I do, then I might miss you, babe. Serena's been working with Trip Red One convict Gaga and getting closer and closer. Next thing you know, she's turning up to Nate's apartment saying, I think I'm about to get involved with your married cousin. Nate's kind of like, maybe don't do that. The two of them go get ice cream and they have a conversation that I'm highlighting because I think it's really good writing. Serena says that high school was so much easier, that she wasn't attracted to married men. And Nate says he was attracted to a married woman. Remember Catherine? Then Serena says that era was her first experience at being someone's fake girlfriend. Who knew I'd be doing it as a profession? It's referential, but current and funny, and also how I think a actual conversation would go between these characters. Anyway, Serena and Nate go out drinking to distract her from all this married man drama. But while they're out, Trip Red One convict Gaga calls Nate to say that he found out his wife Maureen was the one responsible for the fake drowning PR stunt, not meddling political grandpa William. So now he wants nothing to do with Maureen. When Serena's like, what was that? Like, who was that on the phone? Nate's like, oh, it was nothing. Serena and Nate are having a deep chat, and Nate mentions how he loved her and he still thinks she's the most amazing person he knows, and they're about to kiss, and then Trip Red One convict Gaga shows up. He's like, ugh, Maureen, am I right? Thanks for listening earlier, Nate. Serena's gagged, like, what? You lied and withheld information, Mr. Archibald? Trip's like, hey, Serena, you want to go for a walk? Want to go for a walk? Nate's like, Serena, don't cross the marriage line. And Serena's like, line's a bit blurry right now. Jenny goes with Damien to one of his drug deals and Chuck intercepts just in time to stop Damien from giving Jenny some product to test.
Dude, the lady said she's fine.
Dude, I'm Chuck Bass.
If I do, then I might miss you, babe. At the end of the disastrous play, Vanessa has to step in as Olivia when Olivia misses her cue, which means Vanessa has to be Snow White and Dan has to kiss her. Then Blair's like, hey everyone, I've organized for Lady Gaga to perform. And then Lady Gaga performs Bad Romance. Huh? Gossip Girl Season 3 Episode 10 randomly has Lady Gaga in it, and she's performing in the background while Dan and Olivia are talking.
Olivia, where'd you been? You kind of abandoned me out there.
Olivia's like, I dropped out of the play on purpose so that you'd see you and Vanessa have real feelings for each other. Also, I'm out, babe. I'm taking a movie. All this happening while there's a live Bad Romance performance behind them. Serena kisses Trip, and Jenny texts her Red Velvet's second album, The Perfect Red Velvet Track 1 Bad Boy, that she had a good time at the drug deal and wants to do it again. Also, Blair talks about Lady Gaga as this ex-Tish alum, which would mean she's a few years older than them, but Lady Gaga's actually the same age as Leighton Meester and Penn Badgley. So, what now? Episode 11 of Season 3 is very historically important. If you're ever going to come across a Gossip Girl clip on TikTok or Instagram, it's probably the Thanksgiving dinner from this episode. We start with a Scott mention.
And with Scott and his parents at the Cape and my mother still unable to travel.
Yeah, remember Secret Son Scott, who hasn't been mentioned since episode 5 and won't appear on screen ever again? But don't stress, everyone. Scott is apparently with his parents at the Cape. Serena is hanging out with Trip Red One convict Gaga, and he says that political menace Maureen has agreed to a divorce. Serena's like, this is great news because we can't be doing shit together until that's sorted. Then Trip's like, hey, you want to spend Thanksgiving with me? Serena's like, babe, that might actually work because I told my momager that I was volunteering at a soup kitchen with you. Blair is having absolutely none of this Serena Trip shit, by the way. Serena's like, Trip's leaving his wife, but not for me. And Blair's like, so what are you then? An 18-year-old blonde coincidence? Whack her again. Speaking of Blair, her mother Eleanor is back in town, but Blair thinks that Eleanor's keeping a secret and needs to get to the bottom of it. So Eleanor's back in the fray. You know who else? Cece of Serena Eric grandmother and Lily mother fame. Lily says that Cece is too sick to travel. So Rufus and Eric call Cece and ask if she wants to dial in via video call, which in hindsight is quite forward thinking for 2009. So they call her and she's like, oh, Lily told me you guys weren't doing anything. Also, I'm fine, so I'm coming, but don't tell Lily. Let's keep it a surprise. Mess incoming. It's like the feeling of dread you get while watching Dunkirk and Hans Zimmer's Supermarine is playing. It's like the exact same feeling. Jenny tells Eric to invite Jonathan, and Eric says they broke up, but doesn't say why, so Jenny goes and texts Jonathan anyway. Remember, the reason why Jonathan dumped Eric is because of the nasty cotillion shit he pulled on Jenny, which Jenny doesn't know Eric was involved in. Trip calls Serena and says that he has to bail on their Thanksgiving plans because Maureen came over and she was a mess, and she wants to spend Thanksgiving together. So then Serena invites Nate to the Vander Humphrey dinner, which is when Nate looks at Serena like this. It's chill or whatever. Then, by complete diabolical chance, Lily runs into Maureen and she's like, oh my god, we're wearing the same jacket. How chic and stunning. How's things? Can't believe Trip has Serena working at the soup kitchen with him on Thanksgiving. Maureen's there like, do you reckon you can convince him to come to my Thanksgiving dinner so Serena comes too? Let me plot. Let me mantis finger rub real quick. Don't forget, Maureen's messy. Serena runs into Trip in an elevator at Chuck's hotel, and he says that he and Maureen are going to Lily's dinner, and then he pulls the emergency stop on the elevator so they can make out. This is Serena's second stopped elevator of the season, by the way. The hotel security team shows Chuck the elevator footage, and he tells Nate, and Nate realizes that Serena is the reason why Trip is leaving Maureen, not because of the drowning PR stunt. Chuck says that Nate needs to get through to Serena that this is all a very bad idea, and she's going to end up hurt when Trip inevitably bolts. Meanwhile, Vanessa's on the phone beefing with her anti-establishment mother Gabriella, who is saying that Thanksgiving is a marketing ploy by Big Food, and maybe she spilled. But Dan has secretly invited Vanessa's mother over for her and Vanessa to make up. So Gabriella turns up and she says, oh, Rufus invited me and Vanessa to Thanksgiving. Who the hell isn't invited at this point? Also, Dan keeps looking at Vanessa like, maybe I do have feelings for you, like Hilary Duff said. I wasn't joking, okay? Every second person that's ever stepped foot in Manhattan is invited to Lily's dinner. Blair, Eleanor, and Cyrus are also going. Also, Blair thinks that Eleanor's secret is that she's pregnant because she found a pregnancy test in the house. Okay, time for dinner. Yummy, delicious dinner. Cece pulls up and Lily's like, oh? Hello, mother. And Cece's like, oh, honey, you got a big storm coming. Blair tries to make Eleanor admit she's pregnant. Chuck tells Serena and Trip to knock it off regarding the smoochathon in the elevator. Maureen asks Nate if Trip's having an affair, and Nate's like, well, yes, but we can stop it. I have the smoochathon security tape. Jenny pulls Blair aside and asks, what did Eric do at Cotillion? I invited Jonathan to dinner, and he said he's surprised I'm even talking to Eric after what he did at Cotillion. Blair reveals that the Mr. Graham Collins cocktail snatchery and flop debut was all Eric's idea, and then, what you say starts.
If everyone could please find their seats.
What you say?
What you say? Guys, This is so culture and history. This is in the culture and history section of the Mike's Mike Museum. Dinner starts. Lily leaves the table. Cece makes a comment about not being invited to Rufus and Lily's wedding. And Rufus says, oh, Lily said you were too sick to travel. And Cece's like, babes, I've been in remission since August. Well, that doesn't make sense because Lily didn't come home until October. Oh, that's not what you say. Vanessa's like, Dan, stop making that weird face. Hey, Jenny, have you ever heard of someone starting to make a brand new face at 19? I don't know. Ask Eric. He's mastered too.
What? You don't have anything to say to me?
Sweet potatoes are bland.
What you say? Blair's being weird. So Eleanor says, what's gotten into you? And Blair says,
To me. Try you. You're the one who's pregnant.
Rufus gets up to do a speech, and Maureen's sitting there giving Serena and Trip evils. How can you two sit there smiling? Don't you have any sense of decency? Then she goes political menace mode and pulls out the smoochathon evidence. Your affair ends now, or I release this footage and ruin both of your lives. And who's standing there seeing this footage of Serena kissing a married man in an elevator? Lily. Lily leaves again. Serena gets up and leaves. Then Jenny. Then Blair. Gabriella sees them all get up and says, kids, am I right? And Vanessa whips around and says,
Oh, what makes you an expert?
she ate that one thing. And then to finish it off, Messy Queen Cece says,
I'm so glad you invited me, Rufus. Cheers.
Serena tries to explain the affair with a married man situation to Lily. And I just know if these characters could swear, Lily would be like, Serena, get your fucking shit together. Then Lily kicks her out of Casa Vanderhumphrey. Serena comes downstairs and breaks things off with Trip Red One Convict Gaga and apologizes to Maureen. Jenny and Eric are Taco Bell beef supreme right now. Eric's saying that Jenny didn't deserve his honesty because she was a monster and that he lost Jonathan trying to save her, and the whole reason he tried to take her out was so that she'd see who she'd become. Jenny's like, well, no. Jonathan left you because of the shit you pulled on your own accord. And Eric's like, well, I lost everything and it's all your fault. They aren't even frenemies right now. They are for real enemies. Blair confronts Eleanor about the apparent pregnancy. No offense to Cyrus, but does the world really need another Aaron Rose? Ooh, Blair, don't end flop Aaron like that. Eleanor reveals to Blair that she's been acting secretive because she's moving to Paris full time. And the pregnancy test, Blair puts that together with the fact that Dorota's been avoiding her boyfriend Vanya and realizes that the one who's pregnant is Dorota. Blair goes to chat to Serena after she did the right thing by breaking things off with Trip. They make up again and Blair invites Serena to come to Paris for the weekend. If you're going to be sad, you may as well be sad in Paris. So now they're going to Paris together. So they go look for Serena's passport. Rufus confronts Lily regarding lying about when Cece went into remission. And Lily's like, yeah, so I stayed longer with Cece even when she was better because she was suddenly being nice to me and I wanted to spend time with her while I could. Lily said she lied to him that Cece was still sick because she felt guilty that he was running the family back in NYC. Rufus is like, oh, cool, no props. And he leaves. Then Cece pulls up and says to Lily, does he know about your little trip? No? Well, not all secrets can stay hidden, babe. What are you talking about, Diva? Dan's being annoying as per fucking usual. He's giving a lecture to Gabriella about how if she paid more attention to her daughter, she'd realize how great she is. And Gabriella says,
I can't believe I didn't see this till now.
What?
Oh, you're in love with her.
end him. She tells him later, you need to think really hard about this because Vanessa's told you she loved you before and you broke her heart. And if you break her heart again, the friendship might not survive. Serena and Blair are looking for Serena's passport in Bart's fucking big ass goofy cartoon villain-esque safe. When who walks through the door? Abby Lee Miller in her wheelchair. Trip turns up and says, fuck Maureen. I don't care if I lose my job. I want you, Serena. I'm going to be downstairs waiting in my car. I hope you join me. Blair's like, oh, that's crazy. I don't think he'd do that, lol. Okay, I guess you can go be with him. Practicing patience. Serena's like, yay, and goes to close the vault door and sees the letter her father wrote her, which Lily squirreled away. I could not believe it. Side note, Blair's outfit? Yes. Serena's outfit? No. Serena comes downstairs and Lily's like, you did the right thing by ending things with Trip. Well, no. He's divorcing Maureen and I'm joining him. And also, fuck you. You don't get to judge me ever again. And she hands her back the letter. On her way out, she runs into Nate, who says, don't do this, Serena. And he's basically telling her he's in love with her and to give him a chance. And she's like, bye. Bye, Nate. I'm getting in the car with your cousin. With your married Mr. Politician cousin. And then she gets in the fucking car with Trip Red One Convict Gaga while Paramore The Only Exception is playing. Whoa, poor Nate. Oh my God, he's constantly getting whacked in the love department. Lily's reading the letter again and Rufus comes in, so she stashes the letter in her jacket pocket, but she actually put it in the pocket of Maureen's identical jacket. Maureen comes to grab her jacket and realizes in the elevator there's a little something in the pocket. She reads the letter and she's like, wait, Serena, you're over. Serena, what are you doing on the floor? Excellent, excellent, excellent episode. To be honest, it's probably one of my favorites of the entire series. By this point, the show had set up its reputation of messy Thanksgiving dinner. So the build-up was excellent, the climax was excellent, the twists and interlocking plots were excellent, and the ending was excellent. Episode 12 is titled The Departed. Chuck is struggling with the fact that it's the 1 year anniversary of Bart's death, and he's pulled between following the path laid out for him by his father or Gabriela Montez going his own way. Now, said Bart path is evil mogul vibes. For example, Chuck's thinking of buying a homeless shelter so he can redevelop it, but that means he'd have to kick out all the homeless people, which Chuck feels queasy about, but see, Bart wouldn't give a fuck. Speaking of seeing Bart, that's exactly what Chuck's been doing. He's been talking to his brain's manifestation of Bart, kind of like a brain ghost Bart. Girl, what the fuck? Anyway, brain ghost Bart is nasty and tells Chuck he's weak and soft if he cares about displacing all the homeless people, etc, etc. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Lily is stressing. She can't find the letter in her jacket pocket, but as we know, it's not there, diva. Also, can I just say, it is so great having Lily back and central to the plot. I really missed her being a main player in the first half of season 3. I feel like Kelly Rutherford really adds a lot. Anyway, she's distracted by the letter and is about to miss a co-op meeting in the apartment building, so she asks Rufus if he can go in her place. He goes, and this meeting is so Real Housewives plus Real House Husband singular of New York coded. He meets this lady named Holland Kemble, whose husband left her for her yoga teacher, and these two immediately become chummy. Holland Kemble is a crazy name. Serena, meanwhile, has been staying at this fancy Vanderbilt country house with Trip Red One convict Gaga. It's such a mess. Trip's been telling Serena that he's divorcing Maureen, rah sis boomba, but then he's also meeting up with Maureen to discuss how he can keep his job and Serena and Maureen can keep her marriage. How's that gonna work, babe? Maureen pops in to gloat to Serena and tell her this plan, and Serena's like, well, maybe Lily was right. Imagine that. This is bullshit. Being Lana Del Rey Ultraviolence Track 7, The Other Woman, isn't that great. So Serena's hearing this bullshit from Maureen and she's like, why would I ever agree to that? Political menace Maureen whips out the Daddy Vanderwoodson letter blackmail, and we get to find out some of the contents of the letter. That Lily was with William the summer that she was supposedly hanging out with Sick Cece. Serena can't believe that Trip Red One convict Gaga would lie to her, so she calls Nate, and Nate's like, you're in a crisis, I'm on my way. She also calls Lily to tell her that political menace Maureen is leveraging potentially telling Rufus about the letter. So Lily says, okay, I'll tell him myself. Serena's about to bail from Country Cars of Vanderbilt when Trip turns up and begs her to let him drive her back to the city so that they can talk. And then when they're driving, they have a massive car accident. Serena's in the passenger seat unconscious and bleeding. Trip's panicking like, I'm gonna lose me job. So who does he call? Political menace Maureen. They're made for each other, both pieces of shit. Trip bolts from the scene, but not before moving unconscious Serena to the driver's seat so it looks like she was by herself. Yes, Britney Spears, it's outrageous. Nate comes across the crash scene. Serena's now conscious and telling Nate that Trip was driving, but there's no Trip to be seen. Back in the city, Lily's about to tell Rufus about her summer with William when her phone rings and it's the hospital saying they've got Serena. Yes, the timing is so soap opera, and let's celebrate that. At NYU, Dan collects Blair and Vanessa and they go to the hospital. Nate confronts Trip about his insane behavior, and Maureen's there saying she'll tell the police Trip was with her all night, and they'll believe it because Serena has a history of disorderly behavior. See, when you're political menace Maureen, you can be menacing. Trip's like, oh, oopsies, this is such a bad scene. Anyway, can I go see Serena? And Nate Archibald punches his cousin Trip. I think this is Nate's third punch of the series. He punched Chuck during the Blair cheating drama. He punched his dad during the financial fraud escape to Colombia era. And now he's punched Trip. Spotted, the fall of a politician, and the rise of a hero. Nate's kind of Batman if you think about it. I am not sure you understand. Like, he could literally be Batman. Walk with me here. If I wrote a Gossip Girl reboot, I'd make it a crime thriller. I'm seeing it all now. Nate is a vigilante, Serena is a serial killer, Blair is a detective. Crime families, wealth, secrets, get me in a writer's room, stat! So everyone's at the hospital, visiting busted Serena, who's gonna be fine by the way. Lily's a mess, and Serena's mad at her that she didn't tell Rufus about the letter. Serena tells Blair that she was right, and what the hell is new there? Chuck's having a full-on meltdown in the hospital because it's bringing back memories of Bart dying. Let's be super clear on that. He's having flashbacks, and the doctor is saying to Lily, I'm sorry, Mrs. Bass, and Lily's saying, Charles, the doctor said there's nothing more more they can do. We have to let him go. He's dying, okay? Got it? Bart Bass is dying/died. Okay? In present day, Blair's comforting Chuck and he's saying, Bart always said I was weak and I proved it by not being there when he died. Blair's saying that Chuck isn't who he was and that the man he is now is someone that Bart never was. Chuck is so lucky to have Blair. Oh my God. Blair suggests that he finally says goodbye to Bart at the cemetery, and while leaving the hospital, he has a flashback to the doctor putting a sheet over Bart's dead body. Or maybe he was hallucinating again, because Rufus is about to leave Kaiser Vanderhumphrey to go to the hospital when who walks in the apartment? Maureen. I keep saying this in this series, but I just don't understand how these apartments work. How can he, the only person in the apartment, be surprised when someone shows up in said apartment? Did they just let her up? How does this work? Anyway, Maureen gives Rufus the letter.
Happy holidays, ladies.
OMG, BG!
Famously the cousin of OMG BSE. After some drama, Jenny and Eric make up in the hospital during Serena Crashgate. Life's too short to be fighting. Dan tells Vanessa he loves her, and Vanessa's like, oh, you're under emotional distress right now, right? Yes. You mean as a friend, you love me as a friend, yes. Okay, I'm gonna go see if Serena needs anything. Lily gets home, Birkin in hand, and Rufus is nowhere to be seen, but the letter is on her desk. Ruh-roh Raggy. Where's Rufus? At a bar with real apartment building dwellers of New York alum Holland Campbell, saying, I think I might need some advice. He's so weird. Like, oh my God, my wife spent the summer with her ex-husband. Let me talk to this lady I met literally today about it. Serena wakes up in her hospital room and Nate's sleeping there in the chair, and Gossip Girl says, an only sleeping beauty finds her prince. Don't piss me off, Serena. Jenny sneaks out of home to meet drug dealer Damien Dalgard to do a drug deal, and we find out she's been doing it a few times to get the money to run her empire as queen. What happened to just getting a little job? At the end of this episode, oof, it is so Pretty Little Liars. Chuck goes to Bart's grave for the first time, and there's some lady crying, and she sees him and says, Charles, and then runs off. She put yellow flowers on Bart's grave and had a locket with a picture of Bart in it. This is very what the fuck, because how could that possibly be Chuck's mother? She's famously dead, but also famously alive in the series pilot when Chuck steals her medication. But anyway, episode 13, I'm already pissed off, because how the fuck would Gossip Girl get this picture of Chuck at the cemetery? That is so Pretty Little Lies Emily digging up a grave. The episode title is The Hurt Locket. Chuck has become obsessed about the locket, but he's acting chill and unbothered, like he doesn't care that his dead mother is potentially alive. He works out that this woman's name is Elizabeth Fisher. Mother status under analysis. There's been a bit of a time jump, and we know this because Serena tells Blair that she's been hanging out with Nate for a bit, and he wants her to be his date for a politician dinner. She also doesn't have a scar anymore, even though that crash looked pretty nasty. I'm about to crash into this tree, gonna take Serena with me. She runs into Damien, and it turns out these two know each other from boarding school. Serena's like, let's catch up, text me your number. Okay, bye.
I'd love to catch up some more.
Yeah, great. Text me your number.
Okay.
Good to see you.
This has two possible implications. First is that Serena just assumes everyone has her number because she's Serena Vanderwoodson. Or something's funky with the writing, because how the fuck is he gonna text you his number if he doesn't have your number in the first place? If it's option one, she's basically implying that he has her number but she doesn't have time for his number. Maybe she is swiping her queen card. Anyway, they realize that they're both going to be at this politician dinner. Side note, Christmas has already happened. Lily's suddenly talking to Jenny about Christmas in the past tense. Where was the hype? Rufus has apparently been on a skiing trip with his band Lincoln Hawk, and Lily is understandably on edge considering her last interaction with Rufus was the letter on the desk. Damien gives Jenny this drug snack box and tells her that they're going to try and pull off a drug deal at the politician dinner with one of the ambassador's daughters. But there's going to be bag checks and security everywhere, so how are they going to get the product in? Jenny says, let me make a replica of one of the ambassador's daughter's jackets. I can hide the drugs in the jacket in the paillettes, and then we can just swap it and no one will notice. Okay, crafty. It's kind of an excellent plan. It's also a little bit Ocean's 8 coded. Chuck's trying to find Elizabeth Fisher when Blair works out what he's been up to. She's dressed up as sexy Anna Karenina and she's been waiting for him, and we get this interaction with Nate.
Oh, hey, Blair.
It's Anna Karenina. You never read it. Don't worry about it.
I never do.
Serena and Nate, meanwhile, are trying to take it slow, but it's not really working because they're suddenly banging on the couch. Nate's like, ooh, if we want this to work, we gotta take it slow. Maybe I should just go to the dinner by myself. Serena gets pissy and calls Damien and asks if they can go together with Nate piss-offing intentions. And Damien's obsessed with Serena, so he's obviously like, well, yes. Where does this leave Jenny? in the brine. And where are we? In the brine. She's jobless and mad. She's made the drug jacket and suddenly Serena's gonna wear it? Outrageous. Jenny's like, Damien babe, Serena is not going to wear this drug jacket to the dinner. Damien's like, lol, well, I guess I won't tell her there's drugs in it then. Jenny tries to blackmail him and says she'll tell Serena about the drugs in the jacket, and he's like, yeah, okay. Then I'll tell her how you know that. So Serena and Damien pull up to the dinner and Nate's like, question mark? Then Jenny turns up and tells Nate who Damien is and says she can help Nate with the whole situation if he brings her in as his date, which he does. Inside the event, Serena sees Nate and Jenny together like, bro, what fresh hell is this? Damien tries to get Serena to take off the jacket so that he can cloak it for the swap, but Serena is so Valentina right now.
I'd like to keep it on, please.
Jenny's giving Spider-Woman, by the way. Later on, Jenny says, Damien flop, you ruined the plan by bringing Serena. You need to get that jacket off her. And he says, it's not terribly difficult to get Serena out of her clothes. You're nasty. So he tries to get the jacket off Serena by trying to kiss her under the guise of, let's make Nate jealous. But it doesn't work, and now Serena's mad as hell and has the ick. Jacket's not coming off, love. Jenny tells Nate that Serena's about to bolt and that he should go after her. So he does, and he tells Serena that he was scared going fast would ruin their chances of actually making it. Then they make out in the cloakroom, and Serena takes off the jacket and dumps it on the floor. When Damien goes to leave, Jenny's gloating like, ha ha ha, you fucked up the plan because of your high school crush on Serena. And he's like, yep, fucked up big time, word's gonna spread, I'm gonna be out of me business, I'm gonna be out of me money, gonna have no dosh, and I'm gonna have to go back to Europe. Jenny's thinking, oh, it's actually serious. And then she sees the drug jacket on the floor and does a quick micro scheme to finesse the coat checker into thinking the jacket is the ambassador's daughter's. So Jenny saved the deal and saved the day. Also, hiding drugs in a jacket is so fucking funny, girl. Like, go do your homework. Where's Jenny? Oh, she's hiding drugs in a jacket. Jenny, where's your maths homework? Oh, sorry, I was busy last night. I was sewing drugs into a jacket. Chuck finally confronts Elizabeth. She says that she knew Bart for a bit back then as she was at the cemetery to visit her mother's grave and decided to swing past Bart's. She says that she heard Bart had a son but never met Chuck's mother. So Elizabeth is saying that she is not the mother. Mother status rejected. Chuck's like, FML. Okay, bye, and goes to leave, but Blair corners Elizabeth and says, I'm Special Agent Blair Waldorf, and I can tell from your facial expressions that you're lying. My boyfriend has been a wreck his entire life thinking that he killed his mother, so any information you have to prove otherwise, you should share with the class. Rufus confronts Lily about the summer with William Vanderwoodson. She says that she didn't sleep with him, but she did kiss him. And Rufus is like, well, you're over, because we were engaged and you were running around kissing your ex. Ugh, I need to think. So he leaves Casa Vanderhumphrey, and while in the elevator, decides to go to Holland's apartment. Oh. At the end of the episode, Serena and Nate realize that her jacket is gone, so she steals some random lady's coat.
Don't mind us. Hey, that girl's got my coat.
Where is the grace and decorum? Elizabeth tries to call Chuck, and she's looking at the other side of the locket, which has a photo of her holding baby Chuck. So she is his mother? Mother status investigations continue. By episode 14, Nate and Serena are in full couple mode. My thoughts on the matter are that I think they're cute together and they make sense right now. Vanessa's been avoiding Dan since he told her that he loved her. When they finally start talking again, Dan's like, oh, I meant as a friend. Yeah, I meant as a friend. It's very Kelly Osbourne in the sense that-esque. Then they both try to act like they're not interested in each other and are actually interested in these tertiary characters that I'm not even going to mention. But then they get caught in a tight space at a party and make out. Oh. Then they talk about Dan's love confession again, and Vanessa says,
I wish you'd never done that.
Which is vicious. Later on, while Florence and the Machine Dog Days Are Over is playing, Vanessa admits that she also has feelings for Dan but is scared to act on them. Huh, maybe the dog days are over. The dog days are done. Ooh, that was bad. They decide to throw caution to the wind and just go for it. Chuck has been doing more Elizabeth research and shows Blair, Nate, and Serena what he's found, the other half of the locket showing Elizabeth and baby Chuck. He's also found out that Elizabeth used to be Evelyn and she is his mother. Mother status test results have come back from the lab as positive. Evelyn is serving mother. But Chuck's 180'd and he's not vibing her anymore. He's like, well, she's come back for a reason, and that reason must be money. Those Bart Bass dollars. And even if she is his mother, she's not really, because she never wanted a relationship with him. Blair knows how cut up Chuck was the last time Evelyn/Elizabeth turned him down, so she supports the idea of leaving it all in the past. But Serena thinks that Chuck should try and get the truth from Evelyn, so she starts putting into action a Serena plan. And if there's one thing we know about a Serena plan, it's gonna be a fucking mess. See also the Army Hammer scam plan, which resulted in Lily getting Serena thrown into prison just so that she wouldn't mess up things further. This particular Serena plan involves getting Chuck and Blair to lunch and then ambushing them with Evelyn. Blah blah blah, they go to the restaurant. Chuck goes up to Evelyn, but he's in brick wall mode, so he just immediately assumes that she wants to get money out of him. So he writes her a check while she's saying, no, that's not what I want. And he gives it to her and says, the only condition is that you never come back. She keeps apologizing, but then says, well, I guess if this is what you really want, and then takes the money and leaves anyway. This was Chuck's test. If she really wanted to not accept the money, she wouldn't. And unfortunately, she did. So he thinks that Evelyn was a flop and that Serena was wrong. Evelyn doesn't want to get to know him. Blair tells Serena, you didn't do this for Chuck, and she's right. Serena wanted Chuck to reconnect with his mother because she wants to reconnect with her father, and if she can do it for Chuck, then maybe she could do it for herself. Wrong. There's also Jenny drama, but to be honest, when is there not? So as we know, she's been hanging out with international criminal Damien, and they beefed minorly, they cuffed during Serena drug jacket gate, but Jenny famously saved the day and now thinks she's the Harley Quinn to his Joker. She was fearless and crazier than him. She was his queen, and God help anyone that disrespected his queen. Or something like that. She needs to be fucking for real. Well, things come to a head when Lily finds Jenny and Damien together in Jenny's room and she calls Rufus. Rufus comes over and blames Lily and says, well, Jenny isn't Serena and children need boundaries. He's so mad in general right now, but I will simply tolerate zero Lily slander. He tells Jenny that she's moving back to the Brooklyn poverty loft and he's moving back there too. Jenny's pissed that Rufus is telling her what to do and that Damien thinks she's this immature schoolgirl that's scared to stand up to her dad. So to prove she doesn't give a fuck what Rufus thinks, she shows him the drugs that she and Damien were going to sell. Rufus basically starts imploding. He's pretty much levitating from rage. He tells Jenny, this has gone way past getting in trouble. I can't even recognize you anymore. Suddenly Damien jumps in and he's like, oh, the pills are my dad's. He's addicted to them. And then he got clean. And then I started finding them again. I gave them to Jenny to hide them from my dad. Later on, Jenny's like, great lie. They totally bought it. And Damien's like, wasn't lying. Except for the part where I said he got clean. Like, damn. This show really said there can only be one positive male role model father figure in the plot at any given time. And that's Rufus, and he's annoying. Serena's dad's avoiding her. Nate's is a fraudulent felon. Blair's cheated on her mother with a male model. Just drama. Rufus flushes Damien's drugs and follows through with taking Jenny back to Brooklyn because even though Damien's situation sucks, he doesn't want her getting mixed up in drugs. So Rufus goes downstairs to collect Jenny, and she's run off. She's obsessed with doing that at least once per season. Where's she run off to? Well, she went to Lily's medicine cabinet and stole her headache medication so Damien can sell it. And when she gives them to him, he says, hell of a headache, because the tablets are oxycodone. This is a bit of a giggle and a gag because on the label, they misspelled oxycodone. Babes, what's oxycondone? Now, Serena hasn't given up on Elizabeth Ford/Evelyn. She intercepts her leaving her hotel and wants to know why she left Chuck 19 years ago. Evelyn says that she and Bart agreed to give Chuck up for adoption, but when Bart saw the baby for the first time, he couldn't go through with it. Then Bart wanted to marry her, but she didn't love him, so she said no. She also tells Serena that it was her idea that Bart tell Chuck that she died so that he wouldn't come looking for her. And she doesn't regret any of it. So biologically she's mother, but she's not mother in a Kate Blanchett, Nicole Kidman, Anne Hathaway kind of way. Evelyn's like, well, Chuck hates me anyway. And Serena's like, he's just like that. No child wouldn't want to know their parents. She's speaking from experience, of course. Sounds like Evelyn has listened because she pulls up to the Empire to see Chuck one more time. She tells him her story and gives him the check back. Serena finally tells Nate about all of the drama with her dad. Dan and Vanessa have sex, and I just, like, I need to do my migraine preventative actions. The two most annoying characters officially together. They agree that they need to take things slow so they don't burn out, which is so Serena Nate core. The end of the episode is so juicy slow burn drama because Vanya the doorman gives Rufus's scarf to Lily, saying that Holland turned it in after Rufus left it in her apartment. Lily's just like, Dude, I'm Chuck Yass. Hey guys, cheers. Ginger beer. Only classy individuals like ginger beer. Yes, the rumors are true. I am Chuck Yass. Oh, what time is it? Oh, it's time to serve. I'm already doing it. Oh. Episode 15 is titled The 16-Year-Old Virgin, and I was confused because how is Jenny 16 and in senior year? But then I Googled and I realized she's actually in junior year, which would make a lot more sense. Would also explain why she and Eric have not breathed a single word about exams and college admissions. This episode is about Jenny and Damien on the brink of taking their relationship to the next level, but Serena doesn't want Jenny to go there with Damien because he's bad news. There's a lot of Jenny sneaking around and skipping school, Rufus being mad, Serena making up yet another terrible plan, this time to flirt with Damien to prove to Jenny that Damien is a bad guy. But basically all you need to know is Jenny does not end up losing her virginity to 4D, drug dealer Damien Dalgard. Serena does make a good point though in this episode. She says to Nate that telling Jenny that Damien is bad for her will not work. They have to show her. That's so true, especially for a delinquent like Jenny. Also, when Serena's plan doesn't work, Nate steps in to get Jenny grounded by Rufus, and he's on the phone to Blair saying why he did it.
Speaking of things we've shared, Nate.
Blair puts him on loudspeaker.
Serena, I mean, I get it, but losing her virginity
Is a huge deal for a girl like Jenny.
So Serena says,
Why is that, Nate? Because I was a huge slut when I was Jenny's age?
oh, that's not. Also, how good is Blair's face here? Nate finds out that Damien is a drug dealer and confronts him and tries to tell Jenny that she can't date a drug dealer, and then Damien punches Nate. No class, no decorum. And yet another punch involving Nate Archibald. You would not believe it. Guys, I think my watch is stuck. It keeps saying that it's time to serve. I love it, Bollywood. So anyway, as I said, Jenny doesn't end up losing her virginity to Damien, but she tells Serena that she did. Also, Chuck gets sued for sexual harassment by his employees, and it's apparently a setup and he's apparently innocent. I'm just kind of like, why is this plot line happening like this? It's like they want us to be like, oh my god, he's being framed, he would never do that. Do they think that we can't remember season 1, episode 1? Anyway, who's behind this Chuck smear campaign? Well, crusty, musty Uncle Jack, of course. This time with insane facial hair. I shouldn't say too much about the facial hair because that's literally how my facial hair grows. And people always comment or DM me being like, ew, why would you grow your facial hair like that? That's how it literally grows out of my face. Shut the fuck up, please. Anyway, so yeah, Jack's back and he's running his mouth. Oh, I heard Evelyn's back from the dead, but that can't be right because I saw her dead body in the casket at her funeral. Because of Chuck's assault allegations becoming public, his lawyers are advising him to temporarily hand over operations of the hotel for PR purposes. But to who? Obviously not Uncle Jack Bass, although he maintains he didn't orchestrate this mess. Not Lily, because she's Bass Industries, so that would count as his father's company bailing him out. Not Blair, because she's literally his 19-year-old girlfriend, which is funny because he's also literally 19, so there's no good options. But then suddenly, Evelyn's DNA test results come back and she is his mother. So Chuck's like, oh, cool. I'll just hand the hotel over to her. Evelyn's just like, okay. He's giving this lady he met a few days ago full control of his hotel. The end of this episode is literally insane. Jack Bass pulls up to Evelyn's hotel room and says, do we have ourselves a hotel? And she says, we do. Just like, how did we get here? Rufus sees the scarf and he's like, Lily. He tells Lily that he almost slept with Holland to get even, but he couldn't go through with it because he loves Lily too much. At the end of the episode, Cece calls Lily and says, it's been 6 months. It's time to check in with Dr. Vanderwoodson. Lily's like, ugh, can we get any other doctor to do the tests? But yep, okay, getting on the next flight to Canyon Ranch. So this must be Cece going for a 6-month checkup, right? I see a lot of bitches, I don't see a lot of stars. I hear a lot of rappers, I don't hear a lot of bars. I see a lot of plastic, I don't see a lot of barbs. I see a lot of numbers, I don't care about the charts. Episode 16 is titled The Empire Strikes Jack. Eleanor Waldorf has a fashion pop-up. She's whipping up, cooking up skirt. And Rufus has managed to secure a job for Jenny at this fashion pop-up. Remember, Jenny is famously grounded until 2075 because of drug dealer gate. So this is huge for her. Also, don't forget, Jenny has multiple instances of atelier trauma, including with the devil herself, Agnes.
Waitress, can I get a revive?
Waitress, can I get a revive? Me when there's a waitress and I need to get a revive. And speaking of swagness, she's back. Agnes tells Jenny that she's sober and she's in AA and she's reformed. She's Reformer Pilati singular. Eleanor tells Blair that the CEO of a department store chain is coming to see the show and she wants these stores to carry her new line. But Blair's like, ill. Why not a place that's more high-end? Girl, the strike. Eleanor says, high fashion kind of fell off profit-wise. Remember, this is peak 2009 recession. So Eleanor needs Blair to bring her college friends to the show to give the vibe that college girls would buy the clothes. Bring like 10, 20, no more than 30. Well, the NYU friendship Rolodex is looking quite bare. The girl has no friends, but she does have Brandeis. Also, what the hell is this hat that Blair's wearing? She needs to be stopped, okay? It's giving jazz hands, I don't know. Agnes and Jenny apologize to each other. Remember the burnt dresses? And Jenny tells Agnes about how she was seeing Damien, but he's a flop, but he won't stop texting her to get his pills back. Agnes grabs Jenny's phone, calls Damien, and says, let's do a swap at the Waldorf show. Her plan is to wave the pills in Damien's face and then flush them, sort of like in an exercise of girl bossery. Eleanor tells Jenny that she's super talented and that perhaps there's a permanent position for her at Eleanor Waldorf Designs in the future. So Jenny tells Agnes, wait, I don't want to jeopardize this. I don't think I can go through with the Damien plan. Later on, Agnes goes and steals the pills out of Jenny's bag. Where's the lamb sauce? Chuck gets forcibly removed from his own hotel and he's like, excuse me. Yes, Evelyn/Elizabeth is running the hotel, but I still get to live here. And they're like, no, these orders came from her. Oh, she comes to explain her villainous ways and Jack Bass pulls up and he's like, we got you. We played you from the start. He looks like a Lego man. So Chuck gets kicked out and he's proper fuming. He links up with Blair, Serena, and Nate and tells them that he needs to get Evelyn alone because Jack must have something on her. So he meets up with her. She's like, no, it's not about money. Jack and I are like this. Just disgraceful. She's a flop. I can't believe I ever debated giving her Queen card access. Chuck gets all serious and tells her, you deserve what happens next. Ooh! He nibbled, like there was a charcuterie plate and he nibbled. At the fashion show, Agnes is cosplaying Oprah with the models. You get a pill and you get a pill. And Jenny's like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm going to tell Eleanor. And Agnes says,
tell her that your drug dealer dumped your virgin ass and now the rest of her models are high on his stash.
And then she later says,
you know, I think it's time for little Jay to say goodnight.
This is insane. Dead Mouse cameo? Dead Mouse 5. Blair's trying to talk up Eleanor's line to the department store CEO guy with all of her friends, aka Brandeis's contacts. And he's like, nah, I'm not going to buy it because there's prostitutes here and that's not the clientele I want. Oh, and how would you know about that? How would you know what these fine individuals do for work? Turns out Mr. Department Store CEO guy regularly hangs out with one of Brandeis's male colleagues. After finding this out, Blair's like, it's blackmailing time. So the CEO tells Eleanor that he'll carry the line, but he'll have to make changes such as taking her name off. And she's like, oh, absolutely not, babe. No deal, Eddie Maguire, no deal. Blair reveals to Eleanor that she doesn't actually have any friends and she hates NYU. Then Agnes roofies Jenny and takes her to a random bar to try and get her R-worded. She's so fucking nasty and whack. Luckily, Nate sees Agnes putting Jenny in a taxi and calls Jenny so he can triangulate her signal and find her. What in the Find My Friends is going on here? Apple got the idea of Find My Friends from this episode of Gossip Girl. Actually, fun fact from the archives just now, Find My Friends came out the day before Steve Jobs died. I'm not saying anything, but so Nate manages to save Jenny and get her home safely, and Jenny's like, ugh, I'm a mess. How did I get in this position? Great question, little J. Nate says, things were shit for me too, and now I'm with Serena and I'm so happy, so I'm sure things will turn around for you too, small J. Jenny's sitting there like, wait, why is Nate kinda... Evelyn tells Chuck that she signed the hotel over to Jack, and then he double-crossed her and chose the hotel over their relationship, so now she's like, okay, I'm gonna leave the city. This lady's pissing me off. Chuck's like, no, stay. Oh God, please, no. You're still my mom and I don't want you to leave. And she's like, oh, about that. I'm not your real mother and I don't know who your real mother is. So she is not the mother again? Mother status revoked again? Chuck's like, well, you mustn't be my mother because what the fuck kind of mother would do what you just did? What type of mother leave her one son over a stack? Nikki wrote no frauds about Evelyn. What type of mother leave her one son over a hotel? Meanwhile, Vanessa and Dan are officially debuting as a couple and everyone's obsessed. Serena's like, oh yes, how fun is it dating an old friend? But watch out, don't let it get boring. So then Vanessa does too much, trying to make sure things don't get boring. Also back at the fashion show, some girls from Columbia come up to Blair and say, we haven't read about you on Gossip Girl for ages. We thought you were dead. And Blair's like, oh, Columbia students read Gossip Girl unlike NYU students? That's very interesting to me as a Gossip Girl enjoyer and an NYU hater. Also, we haven't read about you recently on Gossip Girl, and what the fuck has Gossip Girl done recently? She needs to get up and work. She's just passively observing and occasionally making an update here and there. She needs to remember her roots. She's not blonde. She's brunette. Also, this implies that Gossip Girl doesn't really report on things that happen at NYU, which Then the end of the episode is Evelyn, aka Elizabeth, about to leave the city, and she's on the phone to Krusty Jack, and he's like, what are you going to do? You ruined your relationship with your son. And she's like, I'm starting over. And she's looking at the picture in the locket of her and baby Chuck. So she is his mother. The amount of back and forth on this is actually ridiculous. Guys, I wrote a summary of it all for you. Chuck thought she was his mother, but then she wasn't, then she was, then she wasn't, then she officially was with the DNA test, and then she wasn't after the sign over, and now she is again. Episode 17 is titled Inglorious Bastards. The main plot here is Chuck vs. Jack. Jack is so fucking two-dimensional Flash villain. We need to add another entry to the Georgina and Carter school of plot devices. Because when in doubt, bring back Georgina, Carter, or evil Jack Bass. Chuck asks Jack, can you stop this fucking bullshit and just give me my hotel back? And Jack's like, well, no. I want to see how far you'll go to get back your most prized possession. What does Jack want? Well, he runs into Blair and says, I'll give Chuck his hotel back if you spend the night with me. She's obviously like, no. And he's like, well, damn, obviously you don't care about Chuck in his hotel. You could fix everything and he doesn't even need to know. Now, this is even more complicated because remember, Blair actually slept with Jack that one New Year. So Blair meets up with Chuck and asks him what Jack wants in exchange for the hotel. And Chuck says, something I would never consider. And Chuck's lawyer is saying there's no other way to get the hotel back and it looks like Jack's gonna close it. Chuck's like, ugh, looks like my father was right. I am a piece of shit. Don't look at me. It's also Nate's birthday and everyone's ignoring him because Serena's throwing a surprise party. So he's kind of just moping around like a sad puppy. Nate's just always sort of around, right? Which makes me giggle and gag a little bit because aren't you at Columbia? Anyway, this surprise party is going to be assassin themed, which is why I'm gifting you these screenshots of Dorota with a gun. When Jenny finds out that Serena's making Nate think that no one cares about him, she's like, Lisa Rinna mode. That's not okay. That's just not okay. After last episode's heroics, Jenny is now obsessed with Nate and she's on Mrs. Still Your Man mode. She takes Nate out for lunch. Like, well, even if Serena doesn't care that it's your birthday, I do. She's also got this fuck-ass hat on. Dan and Vanessa have been hard at work writing shit. Dan's writing a script for his Tish application and Vanessa's writing a script for her film class. They're nervous about showing each other their work, but agree to swap and be brutally honest with their feedback. Dan reads Vanessa's work and he's like, oh, this is shit. This is bad. Her script read like straight up shit, like a toilet full of nasty ass shit. But he doesn't know how honest to be since they're not just friends anymore. So he lies and tells her it's excellent. This right here is the best script I've ever read ever. What about his script that Vanessa's giving feedback on? Well, he finds it in her bag and she's gone to town with the feedback, the little notations. This is the worst fucking shit I've ever read. Jenny continues her spend time with Nate and piss off Serena challenge by making sure that he's late to see Serena by randomly taking him to a movie. Because of this, he's late to the surprise party and Serena is mad as hell at Jenny because she knew what the plan was. Also, when Nate and Jenny are running late, Eric gets a Gossip Girl blast of the two of them getting into a taxi, and I'm pissing at this. Spotted. Nate Archibald with a mystery girl. Even though she's tall, blonde, and gorgeous, I can 100% say it's not Serena. As if she would ever wear a hat like that. It's that fuck-ass hat. So this game of Assassin is basically tag. There's this comic book filter over the scenes of everyone playing the game, and I'm just like, we ain't ever did that before. What made you think now was the time to start doing that? Goofy. So much shit happens during this game. Vanya proposes to very pregnant Dorota. Eric trips over proposing Vanya and is helped up by this random hot guy. Dan confronts Vanessa about his script and she's like, oh, I felt bad because you loved my script so much. And Dan's like, well, I lied. It was actually fucking shit. So now Vanessa's mad, but not for long. They get over it. Nate tells Serena that Jenny was roofied and he saved her, and Serena's like, oh, so that's why she's obsessed with you. The last two people in the game are Jenny and Nate, and she catches him off guard by kissing him. I genuinely cannot get over Jenny and that fuck-ass hat. I'm actually mega obsessed with the writing in this episode around about the 28-minute mark when this happens.
Hey, Chuck, have you seen Blair?
I assume she's still slaying.
I'm assuming she's still slaying. I'm Chuck, yes.
You know Blair. She's probably cheating.
She's probably cheating, referring to how Blair likes to cheat in games to win, and also makes Chuck realize Blair's probably gone to sleep with Jack to get him back his hotel. Such delicious flavors, it's just excellent. At the hotel, Blair turns up to Jack's room and gives him a contract she made so that Jack never tells Chuck how he got the hotel back and to sell it back to Chuck at a profit so that it doesn't look suspicious. Blair doesn't know that Chuck knew exactly what Jack wanted in return for the hotel. So in the hotel room, Jack's stalling and Blair's like, ugh, can we just get this over and done with? He kisses her and then that's it. That's all he wanted. Blair's like, question mark? Chuck? Jack explains that he'll give Chuck the hotel back, but only because he chose to give Blair to Jack. Again, Blair's like, question mark, what do you mean? Jack says Chuck knew which buttons to have me push. He's basically saying that Chuck knew that Blair was going to step in and try and save the hotel, and he didn't stop it. In fact, he potentially enabled it, if we believe what Jack's saying. So Blair goes and asks Chuck. He doesn't deny anything. He says that he couldn't outright ask her for help because Jack would have worked out that they were working together, and so he did what he had to do. I can't let my feelings cost me all that I've built. So Blair says,
all I ever did was love you.
Oh, it is bad for #chair. Chuck's like, you said you'd stand with me through the worst things I could do. Well, I didn't know the worst thing you would do would be to me. It's shocking. Like, he literally leveraged his girlfriend to get his hotel back. She slaps him and says, goodbye, Chuck. It's over. Even Jack tells Chuck, I hope your hotel is everything you wanted because it's all you've got. Now, I will say, this whole thing does in fact make me giggle because what is Jack's motive? Like, he just turns up to be a menace for a few episodes and break up Chuck and Blair and then disappears again. What motive does he have to concoct this elaborate plan to steal the hotel to eventually give it back in a way that ruins #chair? Even though he has a job, he needs to seek employment. He has too much time. At the end of the episode, random hot guy appears and says that he started at the first floor and worked his way up to find the apartment that Eric was in, and this pissed me. How do these buildings work? How can you just get in the elevator as a stranger and walk into random people's apartments? Oh my god. Anyway, we find out this guy's name is Elliot. Other things from this episode. Rufus is binging Polaroid film. Dorota cooks assassin-themed mac and cheese called Stab in the Back and Cheese. We also found out that Vanessa is also applying for the ultra-exclusive Tish writing program that Dan's applying for. My favorite thing about episode 18 is this split second where Chuck's face is warped. He's trying to win Blair back, but Blair is having absolutely none of it. Lest we forget, he traded her for a hotel. Dorota's stressing because her parents are coming over in a few days and they don't know that she's unmarried and pregnant. Chuck finds out about this and he's like, oh, this is excellent. Blair loves weddings, so I'll throw Dorota and Vanya a wedding tomorrow to get back on Blair's good side. Dorota figures that Chuck and Blair must be back together, so she asks them to be the happy couple that walks her into the church. Ugh. Then we get a Bing product placement for the second consecutive episode.
Bing it!
Bingings are now. Cyrus's wedding gift from him and Eleanor is a literal apartment, and Eleanor's like, oh, that's kind of a lot. She's just the maid at the end of the day. And Cyrus says,
She practically raised Blair.
oh, that's not... Pause. The music in the background.
Jenny.
What? Serena's my sister and Nate's my friend.
What is that melody? That was one for my Overwatch girls. Yeah, I play Sigma, Diva, Ash, Widowmaker, Moira, like, it's the girls. Are they playing Bardcore I Got a Feeling on the motherfucking sitar? I mean, hey, I would stream. Blair looks so good in this dress. Are you kidding? Side note, there's this other side of the Chuck Blair hotel story where Chuck's like, don't forget, Blair voluntarily went to see Jack to sleep with him, but I'm not understanding how that's in any way comparable since she was doing that for him, whereas he was manipulating her for himself. I just don't get it. Serena has been lying to Nate and secretly meeting up with, drumroll please, Carter Bazin. Jenny catches wind of this and she's like, hey Nate, you should start an investigation into these goings on. They find a room key in Serena's bag. Nate's not happy about it. He confronts Serena about it and she's like, oh, Carter's helping me find my dad and I was keeping it a secret from you because I didn't want to tell you I was still looking for him. Nate says, well, I don't want you seeing Carter anymore. And Serena's like, you can't tell me who I can and can't see. It's time for Blair and Chuck to chaperone Dorota, but then Blair has a full-on meltdown after hearing how much Vanya loves Dorota and she runs out of the wedding. Dorota comes over and comforts her and says all this nice shit about how Blair is her family and she just wants her to be happy. Who overhears all of this? Eleanor. She's standing there listening like, damn, okay, maybe Dorota is family. Rufus is in attendance and he's like, ugh, wish Lily could come to the wedding. So he calls Canyon Ranch looking for Lily and she's not there. She never was. Diva down, oh diva down. Diva down, oh diva down. Diva down. Diva down, dum dum dum. In the sense that Carter turns up at the wedding and tells Serena that his PI has found her dad. He's only a 3-hour flight away. Serena's like, ah, and then leaves with Carter, who says there's not enough time to find Nate to tell him where she's going, but then Jenny sees them leave together. At the ceremony, Eric's crush Elliot pulls up with his girlfriend. Elliot's like, I was hoping you would be here. Okay, and go talk to your girlfriend and leave Eric alone. Blair finalizes her breakup with Chuck. Jenny tells Nate that Serena left with International Man of Mystery Carter. In the limo, Serena's looking at the plane tickets and she's like, hold on. These are dated a week ago. You knew about this for a while, but you were stringing me along to spend time alone with me. She kicks him out of the car. His car, mind you. This is actually the last appearance of Sebastian Stan as Carter Bazin in the series. Serena calls Nate and Jenny picks up and says, oh, Nate's not here. But she's looking right at him. Mrs. Still Your Man, remember? Can you tell Nate I love him and I don't want any more secrets and to call me back? Jenny's like, yeah, okay, lady. And then goes and dances with Nate. She needs to not be doing that. Like, Jenny, girl, you got to give up. I mean, I think we've all realized we liked someone when it was too late and now they're happily in a relationship with someone else. What are you looking at me for? I think we've all experienced that. But yeah, Jenny's being tacky. Again, where's the grace? Where's the decorum? Elliot asks Eric to dance and says that he got into an argument with his girlfriend and realized he has a crush on Eric. Oprah GIF. Also, does this Elliot guy look familiar? Well, yes, he's Travis from Pretty Little Liars. Ooh, the end of this episode is so drama. Serena pulls up to the hotel that her dad is staying in. She knocks on the door and who answers? Lily Rhodes Vanderwoods and Bass Humphries. The intro Gossip Girl post for episode 19 pissed me off. Because how would Gossip Girl A, know about Serena's father hunt, and B, have this photo? It would have to have been taken from inside the room. So we've barely started the episode and pissed offenings have already begun. So Serena and Lily are heading back to the city and Serena's like, Mom, are you ready to tell Rufus what's happening? Hopefully we, the audience, will get to find out too. After Dorota's wedding, Jenny and Nate had a sleepover, but no funny business. Jenny's walking around in Nate's shirt like she's his girlfriend. She's so messy delulu right now. Nate's just like, oh, that's Serena's favorite to sleep in too. There's a waffle joke.
Oh God, waffles.
You don't like waffles?
I'm Humphrey, so syrup is a food group.
I didn't move. Nate goes to see Serena and Chuck turns up and tells Jenny if she really wants to be Mrs. Still Your Man, she needs to make Serena think that Nate cheated on her. Meanwhile, Blair is trying to show Chuck and the entire Upper East Side that she's single, so she's hosting an eligible bachelor dinner. It's very bachelorette pre-rose ceremony. She's also getting Dorota to throw out this box of memories labeled Old Life, and I'm pissing because in this box is a season 3 promotional picture of Blair and Chuck. Yes, good memories, real memories, real memories. No one shows up to her little I'm single party and she realizes Chuck has put a do not proceed, do not pass go dating ban on her. At Casa Vanderhumphrey, Rufus hears the elevator ding and Alec Baldwin's brother, aka William Vanderwoodson, walks into the penthouse and Rufus is like, what the fuck? Let's run the numbers. How did he get in there? How did he get in the apartment? Lily and Serena pull up and we get a truth reveal. Cece was never sick. Lily was. She had cancer and Dr. William was treating her, which is why she was with him over the summer. But her most recent trip was her 6-month checkup and things are looking good. Rufus is like, oh my God, sucks that you were sick, but also fuck you, William Vanderwoodson. Couldn't we get another doctor? Serena's thinking, oh, that's why you were avoiding me. And William's like, well, yes. Also, Rufus asks Lily why she didn't tell him that she had cancer. And she says, William told me not to tell anyone. Okay. Jenny has taken Nate's shirt that Serena likes to wear and shoved it into her bag so it's still sticking out and then stages a run-in with Serena. Serena sees the shirt and she's thinking, what the fuck is going on here? Oh, this old thing? That's nothing. I just fell asleep while we were hanging out. But nothing happens, Serena, don't worry. Serena's pissed. When she sees Nate and says her dad is in town, he's like, what the fuck is going on? And she's like, what the fuck is going on with you? Dan doesn't get into Tish, but Vanessa does. There's a secondary plot where Dan finds out he was the second choice and that Vanessa's entry might not have been original work, so maybe he should have gotten in. And this annoying character Willa Weinstein is like, my dad is on the admissions committee, I can get you in instead of Vanessa. And Dan's like, no, that would be too mean. But then Willa goes and fucking does it anyway. And then Dan finds out Vanessa's entry really was original. Now this Serena William plotline is already getting messy. You're a piece of shit. Where the hell have you been for the last 14 years? William says that he went to Tibet to be a doctor over there and wanted the family to eventually come over with him. He tried to commute between Tibet and New York, but it didn't really work, and Lily was sick of him not being around, so she wanted a divorce. It wasn't my intention to never come back. I just didn't know how to do it. Serena's half in Delulu mode, being like, oh, okay, cool, so you did nothing wrong. But she's also like, that's it? You just forget how to be a father. Now, Rufus swipes his queen card a little bit here because we know he fucking hates William and wants him gone. But he's also encouraging Serena to try and reconnect with William even though there's so many issues. There's this random NYU party and Dan confronts Flop Willow Weinstein about getting Vanessa back into the writing program at Tisch. This party coincides with stage 2 of Jenny's plan to get Nate off Serena. Chuck's decided to turn up as well because he knows Blair will be there. So he brings Nate and also Jenny. Remember, he's helping Jenny with her plan. But why would he help break up Nate and Serena? Because he wants the Nate that existed before he started dating Serena. The fun Nate. At this party, Jenny's like, I'll go get us some drinks. Girl, if you don't sit your 16-year-old self down. Nate says to Chuck, why is Jenny even here? She's just a kid. Exactly. So Dan's talking to Flop Willa, telling her to fix this Tisch thing, and Jenny walks past and this happens.
Hi, Dan.
Who's that slut?
Whoa. I thought this was a classy party. Suddenly, William gets more Lily cancer test results back and they're not looking good, even though they were just initially looking great. So what's going on? How is Lily suddenly relapsed? Rufus wants Lily to get a different doctor and a second opinion, and Serena's like, no. William is family. My family. My family. My family. Serena calls Nate to tell him that her mum has cancer, and Nate's at this party with Jenny in the background of the phone call being like, let's do some shots. So Serena's like, are you with Jenny? And gets mad and hangs up. Nate's at the party like, ugh, I just want to get hammered. And he starts doing shots with Jenny. And Gossip Girl says, spotted. Nate Archibald suffering from a broken heart. Too bad he doesn't realize Jenny's oath is less Hippocratic and more hypocrite. Oh, that was good. Vanessa and Dan have another chat about the semi-resolved Tisch mess. And she says, why didn't you just tell me you're upset I got in? And Dan's kind of like, surely you didn't expect a good reaction from me regarding you applying. And that's kind of tea because she did kind of sneak that application in. But also, was she supposed to just not apply because he applied? I have some advice for you, Dan Humphrey. Don't get mad, get better. Serena's talking to William and he's saying, I have to believe things are happening for a reason here. Sort of implying that if Lily wasn't sick, he and Serena wouldn't be connecting like they have been, which is a weird thing to say. Serena's saying that he's missed a lot of her life and he's like, yeah, I've seen bits, such as you on a fucking horse. Meanwhile, Nate and Jenny are in Nate's apartment and Jenny's like, Nate, you're amazing. And you deserve so much more than Serena. And she tries to kiss him, which Nate backs away from, just as Serena walks in the room. She'd come to apologize to Nate for keeping him in the dark, but now she's mad again. Nate's like, nothing happened, as per usual, which you would know if you didn't keep ignoring me. And Serena's like, do you agree with what Jenny's saying? And then we get this.
Yes, he does.
I'm talking to Nate, Jenny.
Ooh. Nate says, well, yeah, I feel like you've cut me out. You didn't tell me about your dad, and he left town with Carter without saying anything, so I feel like I don't know what's happening anymore. Serena's like, whoa, hang on, I tried to call you, and I left a message with Jenny. Flop, Jenny's over there like, it's a lie. She never did that. She's lying. Then in response, Nate kicks Jenny out.
Just get out.
What?
Seriously, Jenny, just please leave.
I will say that Jenny being so extremely desperate has lowered her serve score, but has also changed my life. If I ever start thinking like that, I'm going to think of Jenny being cringe and it's going to shock me back to being normal. The good news here is that Serena and Nate are back on good terms. She tells him that Lily has cancer. And speaking of Lily's cancer, the end of this episode is so gag. The good Dr. William is on the phone to someone and says, it's not working exactly as I'd hoped. I need you to write Lily another prescription, and you can't back down now. I doubt the authorities would be pleased to know what you've been doing. Now, what the fuck is going on here? Also in this episode, Blair talks to someone from Columbia and says, oh, I have a friend that goes to Columbia, but I don't think he attends many classes. Thank you. Actually, on Blair, she's nearly over Chuck, which is huge. Like, she was about to throw out her old life memories, including the dress she wore at Victrola in season 1. But now, she knows that Chuck will always be a part of her past, and she's come to terms with that, and she's ready to move on. Episode 20 is called It's a Dad World. Very unserious. Gossip Girl spilled on the intro quote though. It's said that we're all strapped to fortune's wheel. Nowhere is this truer than the ever-changing landscape of love. As one couple enjoys an upswing, another is plunged downwards. But top or bottom, don't get too comfortable because the one thing you can rely on is that the wheel will keep on turning. Dan and Vanessa are still being weird after Tishgate. Dan's genius idea is to have a list of topics that they should avoid discussing with each other so that things don't get awkward again, such as classes, jobs, internships, any kind of writing submissions. That is such a bad idea, and he deserves what's coming. On the other hand, Serena and Nate are in a great place. Communication's happening, the vibes are on. The good Dr. William Vanderwoodson is really starting to dig in to the Upper East Side. He's insidious. Yes, the movie Insidious is about Alec Baldwin's brother, William Vanderwoodson. Serena keeps inviting him to shit like family breakfast, and Rufus is like, William invites everyone to a Columbia alumni gala where he's being honored, and Serena's like, oh, absolutely, yes, I will be there. Lily also says that she and Rufus will be in attendance, and Rufus is just ready to bite William's face off. Also, Serena's moving back into Casa Vanderhumphrey. Remember, she famously moved out and was living at Blair's house. So Serena's at Casa Vanderhumphrey pulling all of Jenny's shit out of the wardrobe, which was kind of confusing to me because I thought Jenny was living at the poverty loft post drug dealer boyfriend gate, but I guess she must have moved back when Rufus found out Lily was sick. So obviously Jenny's mad as hell and tells Rufus to stop Serena, but Serena says, how many problems does she have to cause before you realize that she is the problem? Gagged him a bit. William is also moving into the same building as Casa Vanderhumphrey, and Rufus is basically chewing on the wall with rage. It's very clear to him that William's trying to get as close as possible to Lily as quick as possible. Also, Serena's been lying to William, saying that she was a studious queen and never partied and never did alcohol or drugs. What is an alcohol? I don't know. I've never seen one. Dan calls Rufus to say that he's running late for waffles. Don't piss me off. And Rufus mentions Vanessa's possible 3-month internship in Haiti for CNN, and Dan's like, her what in where for who? It's on the list of no talking topics that he suggested. Chuck, meanwhile, has been avoiding Lily after finding out she was sick. He famously has 3 cases of departing parent trauma and is staring down the barrel of a 4th. Blair has been swanning around the Columbia campus. As we know, she's very anti-NYU, and the positive interactions that she's had with Columbia students recently have had her thinking. 2 of the girls that talked to Blair at the fashion show see her walking around Columbia, and they're like, oh my god, Blair, did you transfer to Columbia? And Blair lies and says yes. This is especially drama considering Blair's college application mess from season 2. When Blair gets a text from Serena while hanging out with the Columbia minions, they say,
Blair Waldorf just got a text. It's like watching Lady Gaga set fire to a piano.
Okay, reference. So Serena's texting Blair about Jenny, and the minions are like, and you're not gonna do anything? You're Blair Waldorf. You're probably the next president of the United States. Or Chanel. So one of them tells Blair about how Jenny and Damien sold drugs to her boyfriend, and Blair tips off Gossip Girl. When Gossip Girl blasts that Jenny was dealing and it wasn't just Damien, Jenny thinks Serena sent her and goes off at her saying she can't believe Serena would try and ruin her relationship with Rufus after they've finally gotten to a good place just because she's worried her own dad won't love her for who she really is. The girls are fighting! Also, Rufus submits a bad reference for William so that his application to live in the building is declined. Serena's mad about it, of course, and then so is Lily when Rufus tells her that he doesn't trust William. Dan confronts Vanessa about the 3-month internship, and she says, well babe, it's on your list of things to not talk about. And she also says, things were easier when we were just friends. Oh, does she want to go back to just being friends? She doesn't know. She says she's going to turn down the internship because her relationship with Dan is more important and 3 months apart is too long. Absolutely fucking not. But later on, Dan actually convinces Vanessa to take the internship, which is absolutely the right thing for him to do. Nate tells Blair that Chuck's been avoiding Lily, so Blair goes and tells Chuck to talk to her. Blair gets points for this here because she's doing this even though they just broke up. Dan tells Jenny that she needs to tell Rufus the truth about her dealing before he finds out about it through Gossip Girl, so she decides to go to the Columbia Gala and tell him there. This is drama because remember, she's grounded for 17,000 years. The Columbia minions get wind of Blair faking being a Columbia student, so they send a tip about it to Gossip Girl. And this is largely irrelevant, but I'm mentioning it so that later on a takedown will make sense. So Chuck finally talks to Lily at this gala thing, and he says he'll always be there. Now this gala, or gala, yes, the Met Gala. Serena tells William that she used to be capital P, capital G party girl. And she didn't want to tell him because she was worried that if he knew the real Serena, he'd bolt as soon as Lily got better. But William says he's there to stay. Blair talks to this random guy about how it sucks that everyone at the gala is from Columbia. And it turns out this guy works in admissions for Columbia and he reviewed her application that day and she got accepted in. Blair is flabbergasted. She's like, thanks? She tells Nate she didn't even apply. And then Nate remembers a couple months ago, Chuck was talking about submitting an application on Blair's behalf, so he must have done it. Speaking of Chuck, he mentions to Jenny that Lily looks really healthy. Maybe too healthy, considering how sick she's supposed to be. Rufus pulls up to the gala and says, actually, Lily, I don't give a fuck if William lives in the building. I just want to be with you. At that moment, William gets up to do his speech and says that he made a bunch of personal sacrifices to be a doctor, and he's going to do everything in his power to make it up to his family because he loves them, and he's looking right at Lily while he's saying this. Gossip Girl says, my oh my, did Dr. Vanderwoodson just make a public pass at Rufus's wife? Looks like this doctor without borders needs a few boundaries. Couldn't have said it better myself, babe. Rufus was Right. Jenny runs into Rachel Brosnahan, who bought drugs off her that was supposed to be oxy but ended up being antibiotics and gave her a yeast infection. Yes, that's really Rachel Brosnahan. Rufus overhears this exchange, so now he knows that Jenny was dealing drugs. He is so outrageously mad right now, there could be cartoon steam coming out of his ears. Blair sees the girls that snitched on her status as a fake Columbia student and tells them that she will be attending in the fall. Oh, and you wanted to see a Blair Waldorf takedown?
Well, cross me again, and you'll experience one firsthand.
And then she sends a thank you text to Chuck, which is nice. The last few minutes of this episode are so good. Like, yeah, I'm awarding the last few minutes of Gossip Girl Season 3, Episode 20 a Mike's Mike Writing Award. While leaving the gala, Serena runs into Holland. Remember her, the co-op lady who Rufus was friends with and nearly slept with but didn't? Well, she tells Serena that they did sleep together. So Serena runs out and tells William to fight for Lily. William kind of looks like live-action young Anton Ego from Ratatouille, by the way. Meanwhile, Jenny's binging cancer. She said, let me bing cancer real quick. I think the relentless use of bing in Gossip Girl is one of my favorite product placements ever. It's so ridiculous. Who up binging cancer? Jenny. She calls Chuck and says, I'm not a doctor, and it's a long story to try and explain how I know this, but something's weird about Lily's medication. I'm sorry, this entire plot is excellent to me. First of all, we have William acting suspicious regarding Lily's treatment. Then we have Jenny realizing something's off with the medication because she snatched it to give to her drug dealer boyfriend to sell to Rachel Brosnahan, who told her it gave her a yeast infection. Insane sentence. Also, we were so spoiled this episode because Gossip Girl actually contributed to the plot and pushed it along. We haven't had that almost literally all season, and then we get multiple instances of it in the same episode. Episode 21 is the penultimate episode of the season. So Serena told William about Rufus and Holland, but William's saying that they can't tell Lily yet because she needs to keep her stress levels down, because she's famously sick. William's also been getting closer and closer to Serena, Lily, and Eric. Like, he's basically living in the apartment with the amount of time that he spends looking after Lily. Chuck and Jenny are sleuthing the house down. Chuck gets a pharmacist to look at the pills that Jenny stole, and apparently they're good for a lot of things, but not for fighting lymphoma. Next, they need to go to the prescribing doctor and find out what the hell is up and why they'd be prescribing Lily the wrong meds. And Chuck wants the help of a master schemer, Blair. He's using this as an opportunity to try and get back with Blair. When Dan and Rufus pop into Casa Vanderhumphrey, Serena takes the opportunity to put the heat on Rufus, basically saying, Holland told me what you did.
You know you was wrong for what you did.
And Rufus is like,
What'd I do?
Serena says, you know what? Just leave. And Rufus is like, why don't we just get Holland here and she can tell the truth herself? So Holland pulls up. Everyone's there, by the way. Rufus, Serena, Eric, Lily, William, Dan. Holland steps up and says this.
Rufus and I slept together.
Talk about love thy neighbor.
Talk about love thy neighbor. Gagged. Rufus is Kelly Osbourning right now, in the sense that, who's gonna clean your toilets, Holland Kemble? Your Honor, she's lying. Liar. But Holland keeps saying, it's true. It's all true. She needs to worry less about this lie and more about the fact her name is Holland Kemble. Go, you sound like a street. Yeah, that's right. I bought a block on Holland Kemble. Worry about that. Anyway, everyone's like, And Rufus tries to say that Holland's lying. And Lily's like, why would she lie like that? Ass out in the penthouse and everything. Lily also brings up the scarf, but Rufus is adamant that nothing happened. Serena tells Nate what happened, and Nate sides with Rufus, saying he knows what kind of guy Rufus is and he would never do that. Remember, the Humphreys famously helped Nate when he was homeless. This pisses Serena off. She's pissing me off big time, but I have to look at it from her point of view. Given everything that's happened with her dad coming back into her life, it would make sense for her to kind of be like, yep, must be true. Let's kick Rufus out and get my dad back in. Anyone who doesn't like Williams gotta go. Blair declines Chuck and Jenny's invitation to sleuth, but takes up Dan and Nate's invitation to investigate why Holland would lie about sleeping with Rufus. Chuck and Jenny pull up to the prescribing doctor's office and Blair et al. Walk in. Turns out the doctor is Dr. Holland Kemble. Dun, dun, dun. Literally. She's not in the office though. The squad needs concrete proof that links Holland to the meds, so Jenny starts looking for a fresh bottle of Lily's meds with the label intact. She finds it in an envelope labeled Hold for Dr. Vanderwoodson just as Serena walks in. Jenny lies and says she's there to pick up a dress unless Serena hasn't destroyed them all already. And Serena says, I have no interest in your wannabe Watanabe.
I have no interest in your wannabe Watanabe.
She's being such a four-letter word. Starts with C. Can't say it on YouTube without my bills being affected. That line 8 though, I have no interest in your wannabe Watanabe. There's basically a cow of beef between these two at this point. She's dragging Jenny left, right, and center. And when Jenny implies that maybe William is giving Lily dodgy medication, Serena's like, you and Rufus have done enough for us Vanderwoodsons. Jenny's like, bitch, I would give everything up to go back to Brooklyn forever and be done with this shit. So Serena says, then why are you still here? The drama of it all, I could tear up. Do you see? Then there's some gala or function or benefit. Who cares? It's a high society event and everyone important to the plot's gonna be there. Nate looks so fucking good. Ooh, come on, Jenny. The future of our family is riding on your sleuthing. Totally real and genuine dialogue. Jenny lies about finding the meds and says she didn't find anything. She's had enough and wants out of the Upper East Side, and maybe lying and getting the Humphreys kicked out is the way to go. At the event, Blair comes up with a contingency plan that involves blackmailing Holland, which Jenny tries to sabotage, but it starts working anyway. Serena sees Jenny and snitches on her to Rufus, remember the 27,000 years of groundage, and Rufus barges into the party once Dan and Nate let slip that Holland is there. Serena sees Nate involved with whatever scheme is happening and blows up at him, saying that he should have been on her side. Blair and Chuck corner Holland and execute their blackmail. It's illegal to prescribe mislabeled medication, especially to people that aren't even your patients. Holland admits that she wrote the prescriptions because she owed someone a favor, and the person they need to talk to is William Vanderwoodson. WVDW. Jenny slips out and warns William that his cover's been blown and he has to leave now. She thinks she's playing 5D chess and that letting William get away means that he can still get his family and she gets to keep hers, but I don't really understand how that plan would work out. Like, all the shit's out in the open now. Anyway, William leaves the gala with Serena and Lily and says he has to go to Florida immediately because one of his patients has taken a bad turn and he wants the whole fam to go with him. Well, that would explain why Jenny thinks her plan would work, because William wants to literally ship the Vanderwoodsons away. Nate tries to call Serena and tell her what's happening, but she ignores his call. Dan manages to get through to her and we get a full William plan reveal. Lily was genuinely sick and William cured her, but he fell in love with her again. William writes a letter to Serena saying that he was with Lily when she came to see him, knowing that this letter would cause drama between Lily and Rufus. Then he got Holland to befriend Rufus, but it turns out Rufus and Lily are solid. So how does William think he can get Lily to love him? By curing her again. So he gets Holland to prescribe the medication, didn't want to do it himself because he didn't want it traced back to him. So as we know, this medication is wrong and the side effects of it mimic Lily's symptoms from when she was actually sick. So he was going to cure her from the relapse and she'd fall in love with him. Add in getting Holland to lie about the affair and it's actually a pretty solid plan. It's outrageous. Maybe we need to give WVDW his props. Serena confronts William and says, "The people are talking. The people are talking. The people are saying that you have been playing Lily like a grand piano." He's just like, "That's preposterous." Rufus turns up and puts William on the spot, and William's like, "Lily is sick. Let me go downstairs and get my medical files to prove it." Serena's still defending William, and Blake Lively's putting in the performance of a lifetime, showing Serena's desperation to believe her father's a good guy. Everyone else pulls up to the Kaza and they're like, "Oh, I didn't see William downstairs. He wasn't there." And Serena's like, "He wouldn't leave me." And she goes down to check. Dan follows her. Plot twist, he did leave her. Chuck and Blair realize that someone had to have snitched to William, and Jenny admits to it. William has bolted. Serena's cut up. Nate calls the police station. Serena follows Will.i.am to the helipad in this fuck-ass hat. He admits that he cured Lily and fell in love with her again and just wanted to be a part of the family. No. That does not excuse the fact that you drugged your ex-wife so she'd present with cancer symptoms. I wanted to be part of the family, so I gave my ex-wife fake cancer. You need prison. And quickly. Serena says the police are on their way and you need to go. She calls Nate and says, "Now do you see why I don't tell you shit, you ratty snitch? You called the police on my dad." She hangs up and gets in her limo with Dan and says, "Thanks for being here." Jenny tries to justify her actions to Rufus and says he and Lily have so many issues and they're always fighting and everyone ends up being dragged into it, and is it so wrong that I want my old life back? Rufus says this is normal. The only thing that needs to change is you. So Jenny runs away for the 17,000th time. The thing about Jenny Humphrey is that she's going to run away. This time, she pulls up to Nate and Chuck's apartment. The season finale is titled Last Tango Then Paris, and it is a doozy. You may have picked up on the Game of Thrones-esque nature of the pacing, where it seems like the drama climaxes in the penultimate episode. So where does that leave us? Well, we open at Grand Central with Georgina in a blonde wig. We are in for a treat, ladies and ladies. I could have screamed when Georgina stepped into the frame. I mean, how else would they top the evil daddy fake cancer plotline? She looks so good too. Rufus is like, what am I gonna do with Jenny? I don't want to have to send her away, but I don't know what else to do. Eric walks in and says, "Send her crazy ass away," right in front of Rufus.
So go ahead and send her crazy ass away.
Jenny, meanwhile, stayed the night at Nate's, potentially in his bed, but nothing happened. Apparently she just ranted the whole night and he fell asleep. Nate's like, "Jenny babe, don't want you to get the wrong impression. We are very much just friends." It's always interesting to me that Jenny consistently goes to Nate for advice and not her actual brother. I mean, he's a flop, as we know. Georgina walks into the apartment and Chuck's like, "Georgina Sparks? How the fuck Did she get in your heart if he didn't know she was coming? Georgina tells Chuck that she needs help and she's scared, and that the Russians don't mess around. What the hell is going on? After the previous episode's squadron activities, Chuck's trying to convince Blair that there's still a spark between them, and working together showed it. He sets her an ultimatum. Meet me at the top of the Empire State Building tomorrow, or I'll close my heart to you forever. Blair's like, ugh, I would never. But we can see she's kind of like... Gossip Girl's writing, looks like it's do or die time for Waldass. Waldass is insane. Waldorf Bass. Boldass. That bold ass man. Jenny arrives back at the poverty loft to find Serena and Dan in Dan's bed. Remember, they were famously in the limo together after William ran away. Jenny snaps a picture and sends it to Gossip Girl. Serena and Dan wake up and apparently they kissed last night. Oh, that's not... They're like, that meant nothing. We were crazy back then. The Gossip Girl blast goes out. Please review this footage of Dan reading said Gossip Girl blast. Serena's got her fuck-ass hat on again. Robin Hood takes Brooklyn type beat. Blair calls her and roasts her and says being with Dan is so 08, like maxi dresses and Miley Cyrus. Gonna have to disagree there. Miley Cyrus is all time. Serena goes to talk to Nate, and Nate is obviously pressed post-blast. And Serena's like, we both messed up. I think we all messed up. I only went to Dan because I was mad at you for calling the cops on my dad. Girl, shut up. She's so mad that Nate called the police on William, but hello, your dad gave your mum fake cancer. Be serious. Blair turns up to the poverty loft to give Jenny a smackdown, and she does deserve a smackdown. She's running around ruining every possible relationship and pissing off every possible person. Blair basically ends Jenny by saying that she'll never fit in, and the only person that loves her is Rufus, and who knows what he's going to do after these recent developments. She also roasts Dan and says that he needs to leave Serena alone, and Dan says that he feels like there's all these signs that life is trying to give him. Blair says signs are for the religious, the superstitious, and the lower class. I don't believe in them, and neither should you. And then by chance, she sees the Empire State Building, which Chuck is famously waiting at. Wait, that's a sign. Oh my god, I need to go meet Chuck. And then Dorota's water breaks, and she goes into labor. Rufus tells Jenny that she's going to spend the summer in Hudson with her mother, and she's going to finish high school there. Jenny's having a meltdown. She doesn't want to leave the city. Speaking of Jenny's mother, where the hell has she been, Loka? They should never have introduced Dan and Jenny's mother because she's never present for anything, so it looks like she just doesn't care. Does she even know about drug dealer boyfriend gate? Agnes Roofie gate? Dan Vanessa CNN gate? Hillary Duff gate? Probably not. Dorota gives Blair permission to leave the hospital and go meet Chuck before it's too late. Why is Serena wearing business casual in the hospital? Nate overhears Serena and Dan talking about their kiss, and he tells Dan to tell Vanessa before he does. And then he's feeling messy, so he forwards the GG blast to Vanessa so she can read it herself in Haiti. Can we please take a quick second to talk about Nate's phone? There's Facebook updates on the main screen, including Eric posting that he's glad the drama is over. He is so ridiculous. Surely he is not posting about Evil Daddy Fake Cancergate on Facebook. And even if he's not being specific, he's being so attention-seeking by subtweeting the drama. Also, I wonder if Nelly is Queen Icon Nelly Yuki. Blair runs into blonde Russian Georgina, who says she needs help, but Blair's like, babe, I literally cannot do this right now. She pulls up to the Empire State, but it's too late, rhyme intended, and she sees flowers in the bin. It's not looking good. Meanwhile, Jenny has arrived at Casa Nate looking for Nate, and Chuck is moping around post Empire State Gate. So many gates, so many rhymes, not enough time. Chuck's like, pull up a seat, have a drink. They're chatting and being all emo, and then they start kissing. Then Jenny loses her virginity to Chuck. I'm literally a stunned mullet. Don't worry, I'll get to dragging Chuck, just give me a second. They're laying in bed and the elevator dings, and Blair walks into the apartment looking for Chuck. How does she get in here? Chuck goes out to see her while Jenny hides in the room. She finds an engagement ring box on Chuck's bedside and realizes that Chuck was going to propose to Blair at the Empire State Building. Blair says that she went to the Empire State Building to meet Chuck and that she loves him. Oh my god. Do you see the drama that is about to unfold? While Blair and Chuck are talking in the kitchen, Jenny bolts. Meanwhile, Dorota has a baby girl named Anastasia and asks Eleanor and Cyrus to be the godparents. Eric finds Jenny crying in the hospital and puts two and two together. Jenny says she regrets losing her virginity to Chuck and wanted it to be special, and she's a mess. Taylor Momsen is acting here. She is acting.
I was sad. He was sad. I don't know.
Golden Globes on the horizon. Eric finds Dan and tells him that Jenny needs help. In the hospital cafeteria, Serena and Nate are talking, and Serena says she wants to take a break from their relationship to work on herself, but Nate says, if you're out, you're out. I'm not going to stick around to see what happens. So Serena's out, and the relationship's over. Also, if you're out is so Tim Gunn Project Runway. Chuck and Blair arrive at the hospital, and they're cheesing, and Chuck's about to propose to Blair, and out of nowhere, Dan comes up and punches him in the face.
Blair, will you?
Blair sees Jenny and puts two and two together. Oh my god, the mess. Blair tells Jenny that if she ever steps foot in Manhattan again,
I will destroy you.
Jenny tries to apologize, but Dan says,
I'm sorry.
You have no reason to be sorry. This begins and ends with Chuck.
Of course I feel bad for Blair, but Jenny assumed Blair wasn't with Chuck, and how was she supposed to know that Blair was going to come back to him? Also, not to excuse felon Chuck, but he also assumed it was over between him and Blair. But then, sleeping with underage Jenny and immediately trying to propose to Blair is insane weirdo behavior. If you thought Chuck and Blair were over before, the ways in which they are over now, like there's no coming back from this. 1 week time jump. Jenny's leaving Grand Central to go to Hudson. She's sitting on the train looking out the window leaving New York, like a mirrored image of Serena looking out the window arriving in New York in season 1 episode 1. We love a throwback, we love a reference. Blair and Serena are full BFFs again. Yassings abound. They're both single and they're both going to Paris. I have 2 photos in my hand and you're both going to Paris. Maybe everything bad happened for a reason to get us a Serena and Blair BFF trip to Paris. Dan's about to send an apology email to Vanessa about the Gossip Girl tip that Nate sent her, but instead decides to call stepsister situationship Serena, who says, see you in September. Dan's like, oh, that doesn't sit right with me. I need to chase my girl. And no, he doesn't mean his actual current girlfriend Vanessa, he means his stepsister situationship Serena. So he hops on to airfrance.com to buy a ticket. The date on the booking portal is 17th of May 2010, by the way, which is weird to me because then Blair and Serena are going to Paris from May till September. Hello school? Dan doesn't get very far booking the ticket because Georgina turns up with her natural brown hair and she's pregnant and says Dan is the father. And then we see Chuck in Prague getting mugged and he tries to stop them taking the engagement ring box and he gets shot.
Let me take the box!
And he's lying bloody on the floor and Gossip Girl says, till death do us part, XOXO, Gossip Girl. I collapsed. I collapsed like Chuck in Prague.
Till death do us part. XOXO, Gossip Girl.
Such a good episode and such a good season finale. I'm pretty much happy with all of the plotline finishings / continuings / startenings. Jenny leaving, Dan back to being obsessed with Serena but now dealing with this Georgina pregnancy bombshell, Serena and Blair going to Paris, Chuck potentially dead in Prague. We've had a very solid few episodes from around about the start of the Evil Daddy Fake Cancer plotline. Just wow. We won. Wow. Hey people. If you've made it this far, I do think you deserve some kind of congratulations. And so do I. You know what? I deserve congratulations. If you made it 2.5 hours of me running my mouth, then it mustn't be that bad, right? Of course, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed making it. It was a slog, but every time I make one of these, I'm really proud of it. And I know that I have something that I will always have. That's why I make something physical for each video concept. I'm considering selling the covers, but I don't know if people would actually buy